everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're having a good weekend. I had a nice day off yesterday, just chilled at home, didn't do much. I'm feeling cozy. I thought it would be fun to do some conspiracy stuff and play some Starfield to ease back into it, and we'll be back and ready tomorrow, probably for some Chud Watch, something a little more intense. On YouTube, by the way, I did switch it back so you can, you should be able to go back and forth in the live show now while it's going. People seem to really want that, so that's fine. Put that setting back on, so that's cool. Is that better? On the music? Hopefully. Oh yeah, my volume was really down, so I couldn't hear how loud that was for you guys. Sorry. So yeah, it's gonna be good. We're gonna be doing some longer form conspiracy stuff, because normally I try and keep, tinfoil videos to 10 to 30 minutes or so on Tinfoil Tuesday. But I thought it would be cool, because I saw a channel today that does, interviews with other conspiracy theorists. Two conspiracy theorists talking about the things they believe, so I thought that might be interesting to take a look at, and, that's what we're doing. Let's see what I missed so far over on Twitch. There is a hype train, 85% to level 1 on the hype train. Let's see. Ashley One Up says, the longer I work in retail, the more I learn just how few people have no idea how basic hygiene works. So many people stink of stale sweat. Please shower more, people. Ash and Asphodel, thanks for 12 months. Amber Pretzels, thanks for 21 months. Altered Undying, thanks for gifting a sub. DM Trey with 100 bits says, yay, Hannah, on my birthmas. Hey everyone, how is it? Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Hope you're having a good one. Altered Undying says, hey Hannah, I put the ritual magic users in and old Oddfellows Hall. If I didn't watch you, I would have no idea who they were. And we're caught up. Cool. Oh, Neural Alchemist, thanks for 36 months. This sub-baby's name is going to be Petunia Mackerel Bottom. Petunia Mackerel Bottom. Over on YouTube, make sure you like the stream. Other than that, I guess we can just get into it. We'll just get into this little conspiracy conversation that this guy had with a friend. There's many episodes of this, so we might jump around between episodes. I'm not sure. This is kind of a new idea where we can get some longer form stuff while also having other stuff going on. Just because, there's dead air bits and stuff that isn't quite as interesting. I think it'll be fun and kind of chill, and it'll give us a chance to just chat about stuff. So, even if it's unrelated, feel free to talk about stuff in chat, ask me questions about things, whatever. We're gonna chill, play a game, and listen to these folks. So let's do it.
Perfect enough for people to join me here to have a talk. If you want to do that, let me know in the chat. And as people start coming in, I'll remind people of that point. But before we start,
how's the volume?
I was going through an old book I had, which quite suitably for a book about brainwashing seems to have an all-seeing eye on the front.
No problem, Halloween Town.
So take everything this book says with a pinch of salt for that very reason. But it seems fitting that, considering we're always talking about being brainwashed 24/7, the all-seeing guy is going to have to be present. Before I was saved, but there's a poem in here which interests me when I was skipping through it, because I realized it's a perfect analogy for the pain, confusion, and anger we can all feel.
Oh, sorry, Halloween Town. I was reading the wrong thing over on the YouTube chat, and I thought you had said something, but it was actually Alex Lake Art, so I apologize.
Knowing the truth.
Is this guy a flat earther? He probably is, but he's actually the guy that we've seen more recently who's into the, Nephilim clown thing, where they think that, clowns are based off of, demonic entities. It's a whole thing.
Be butchering the name of the author of this, but it was written over 2,500 years ago by a tradition. Not sure how you pronounce that, but storyteller of tragedies.
Schifazoa, thanks for
in
69
Greece,
bits.
about 2,500 years ago. And I think his name is pronounced Eucalus or Aeschylus.
I'm gonna skip to the part where his friend comes in, because boy, this guy needs someone to bounce off of. I did listen to more of this earlier.
Anyway, when reading it, because this is an example. Now, let me explain. Bizarre thing I know, wickedness and hallucination. Have you heard about this? Talk about what you've discovered. But through doing this, and Adam, conservatively, to learn the truth.
Minute left on the hype train.
Very difficult to release most, to cope, to deal with these facts. And to know just what to do with them.
I want to be clear too. I like all the conspiracy theorists that we cover. There is a potential element of mental illness here, so I do not take that lightly. I want to be clear, but I think that this guy he's not in a place where he's not taking care of himself. So I think it's at least interesting to take a look at how these people view the world. I am not here to mock this guy, necessarily. I'm here to listen to conspiratorial thinking in long form to try and understand it better. Okay.
So?
Did the YouTube stream die? Why?
Come on to this show, talk about it. Now, you might have noticed I'm in a shed. You know, I'm in a shed. If you
fine for Baja. Okay, it must be an individual thing.
I hadn't noticed. And this is a shed I've practically grown up in my entire life. I swear, me and two very close friends growing up, Liam and Adam, would spend hours into the morning drinking wine, smoking cigarettes, and just talking. Not playing games, not watching TV or catching up on the latest Netflix series. I mean, literally talking about hard-hitting, deep subjects any teenager needs to get his head around in order to orientate himself in this world.
You're talking about basic existential questions, you know, hanging out with your friends and getting high or whatever in high school and college and having existential questions. That's fine. That's not abnormal. It's not like, you know, groundbreaking either, but, you know, that's a time in your life when you do kind of sit and think about things that you maybe haven't thought about before, that you've taken for granted. That's fine, but it's also not something that means you know things more than other people. I think everyone goes through that to one extent or another. Medicated person, thanks for 24 months, says 24 months, woohoo! Happy 2nd anniversary. You have, or think we have, conspiratorial thoughts. Can we write them into you? Go for it.
Beliefs. Now, Liam was the logical-minded computer technician, which is what he is now, funnily enough. Adam was more of the out there, free-loving, ultra-left, all is relative mind.
I'm so curious what he considers ultra-left to be, based on what I heard from later in this stream when he calls everything socialism.
Hedonistic in its sense. And then there was me in the middle.
Did you just say that, like, leftism is hedonistic? That's interesting.
Who took points from both, but could never really commit to it being so extreme on either side. But through doing this, for about 6 to 10 years, we managed to iron out just who we are.
How's it going?
What we believe. And we also learnt to think. Something schools don't really teach you. And something you can only gain with others. You don't really know what you believe until you hear yourself say it out loud. Now, I often have this problem on a side note where what I say doesn't sound as eloquent as how I thought it was in my head, which is why it's good practice to say things out loud, which is probably why I started this channel to begin with. But I want you, the listeners, to come on here 30 seconds or for 30 minutes just to talk about what you've discovered, what you've found. What pulls your strings or has been pulling your strings? Now I'm going to try and go over to the group chat here and see if anyone is available or if anyone has said anything in particular. But while we're trying to sort this out, there's something I promised I'm going to discuss very briefly, something that I've recently discovered, which you might find quite interesting. And wake up to reality's spring of well-known. But this, well, we can really revert. Sorry.
Salvia.
There we go.
And I think that's what the enemy fears the most about people like us, and the idea that we can.
I thought
Sorry, I'm juggling. That is gone. Now I earn about £5 a month. Half of my videos have disappeared if you put it onto safe mode. And
Wonder if I'm on safe mode. Probably not. I'm here, I guess.
every week now, one more video gets demonetized. So it seems I must be doing something right. Luckily, I have a job.
These NPCs look exactly like the same person. Am I crazy? Maybe I just have face blindness for NPCs, but one of them just looks like one that's got a slightly different beard.
Prepared for this, I always knew it was coming.
Thanks, standard display
and
name.
God has looked after me.
Safe mode is it'll show you, like, you can turn on safe mode on YouTube, and it'll, like, show fewer videos, like, ones that are deemed, like, inappropriate. Won't show.
And thankfully, that job has kept me.
It's like safe mode on Google.
As well, because now I can still interact with human beings on a normal level, and that's something we kind of have to practice. It looks like someone's just jumped in. Let's have a look here. Sorry, I'm juggling two screens at once. I've got a couple of
The other day, you were craving meme stock so bad you watched the PP show. That's funny. We'll probably do meme stocks sometime soon. I'm waiting until the 14th, because that's the, that's their meetup with Polte in, I think, Florida. So they're supposed to be live streaming that day. I'd love to do a stream that day all about whatever the heck happens. My current theory is that Polte is going to get them all down there, already charged them the $500, and then he's going to basically give them a timeshare presentation, but instead of being a timeshare, it's going to be about his PP, his Polte plan, which is how to improve that Polte home group company that he got kicked out of. It's where he's going to try and get them involved.
Even here.
Two of us joined.
Are they finally going to SpaceX? No, they're going to a small airplane hangar that could probably fit 5 SUVs in it, and that's where the party's at.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, who wants to go first then? Shall we? Who jumped in first? I missed that. Sorry.
Not sure.
Starfield does have space
All right. Well,
magic.
JJ, you're there. Do you want to anything you want to say today? Anything that's on your mind? Anything you're sick of hearing? Anything you really want to hear more of? Now's your chance, man. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to compliment you on your Nephilim clown videos, man. It was pretty awesome. I thought that.
Those are some top quality Nephilim clown videos. Those were the best Nephilim clown videos on the internet I've ever seen. And I'm not even being that ironic. They are. I've seen worse Nephilim clown videos. They were still nonsense and none of it's true, but like they were produced better than other ones I've seen, so that's nice. Meek says, apparently Polte is from Michigan. Why is it always Michigan? Something in the water. Maybe something not in the water. It's our abundant fresh water. It's fucking with people's brains. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Also, just coming to Christ and all that kind of stuff, that's pretty awesome too. It makes
Of course, yeah, but
yeah, I thought it was pretty great. I hadn't seen you do a live stream yet, so I was like, man,
Hi, Drake.
I'm gonna check this out. But yeah, no, I ain't got much time. I'm at work, so I just wanted to jump on and say hi and compliment you on your great work on the Nephilim clown things. I didn't see it at first, but after I watched a little bit of it, I was like, man, this guy's on something here. That's for sure.
Mm.
Do you know
what, JJ? That's kind of what it was like for me. I didn't even believe what I was saying when I first said it, but I was like, I think I'm onto something here, and I kind of rolled with it for a while, and the connections just came flooding in one after the other. That's the amazing thing about truth. Once you get onto it, it just gets exponential. And I think that's what the enemy fears the most about people like us, and the idea that we can do such a thing. Anyway.
We see that a lot with the conspiracy theorists we cover, is that idea of some sort of consummate enemy, the them that they are, like, putting in their narrative as the enemy, because in order for them to be heroic, they feel the need for there to be an enemy that is constantly trying to stop them from reaching the truth. It's an interesting feature. and also scary. It's scary knowing that there are people out there who are on the lookout for enemies that don't actually exist.
Hey, JJ, thank you for your
sure.
comments. I really appreciate
How do I put up with all this? I think it's really interesting.
it.
Like, genuinely, I do this stuff in my spare time. I find all this very, very interesting.
Better
Right,
get back
bro.
to work.
Yes,
Take
sir.
it
Have a
easy.
good day. Yep. Bye.
You too. God bless. Okay. Expose the secret society. I can only see expose the, but I'm guessing it's expose the secret societies.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Did I like the giggle? It wasn't as good as Wild Blue Yonder, but it was alright. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see what, if anything, Russell T Davies does with, I'm trying to be spoiler-free here, what he did at the end of the episode. But as someone who continually criticized Moffat for saying, wow, Moffat really had a hard time, like, letting go of characters, I apologize to Stephen Moffat. I never thought we'd get something that was such an egregious case of I want my characters to live, despite that not making sense. It's whatever. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. But it is a little like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff, man.
Can
It's
you
your
hear me?
turn. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you just loud and clear. That's fine.
Perfect. Earlier in the chat, you were reading something I was saying. It was the second message was supposed to be a continuation of the first. What I was trying to say was, since we live in a conscious reality, I don't truly believe that
Hey, Rublum.
this world
A conscious reality.
is a truly
Do
physical.
you mean that our perception of reality exists in our consciousness, and therefore our only perception will only be of that consciousness? Or do you mean that the universe exists as a piece of something's consciousness?
World? I truly believe it's more of like a
Stinks of the internet, things for 25 months.
conscious base,
If they write it to be that that's the curator, would make sense. I don't think they're going to do that, though.
kind of like a dream state of mind. So with that being said, I think if you
Who do I think the one who waits will be? I hope it's Omega.
believe in something hard enough, it may manifest like these like demons. I had a weird experience with someone. I posted in one of your YouTube videos a little while ago where we took Salvia. Two of us like separately took Salvia, but at the same
Salvia is a hallucinogenic drug.
time.
Isn't he dead? Doctor Who, no one's dead.
And
No one's dead for always in Doctor Who. Villains always come back.
we both had the same experience where we saw some kind of black figure off to the side of us.
Yes,
And-
you were taking hallucinogenic drugs. Salvia, for those who do not know, is a hallucinogenic drug that I've heard is just totally fucked and not a good time. Basically, you smoke it. I do not recommend anyone do this. Don't do this. I'm just explaining it to explain what he's talking about. You smoke it, and then you have like 5 to 10 minutes of intense hallucinations. I have never done this. I never intend to do this. I don't think that sounds fun, even a little bit. So what he's talking about here is a intense drug trip, which he believes is reality. And it's really sad that I see this happen continually, where someone has some sort of drug trip, and then they're like, no, this is real. Like the Nephilim clown guy talks about this all the time, about how like people on DMT see clowns, and it's like, okay, they're on drugs. They're on drugs. Like, I don't... What do you think drugs are?
And it felt like he was pulling us in.
Right, fascinating. You know, I've done salvia myself. I know it's actually that was the first psychedelic drug I ever did. I was 16 at the time, so I know what you went through. But describe more in detail what happened to you. Let's tell the story about salvia. This is something I think people need to hear about. How was that? Can you go into more detail about what happened there?
The drug is a nightmare. It's not fun. Well, we were at the
People ordered with 50 bits. Oh, is this big money salvia? No. Holy fuck, did he actually do this when he was a kid? No, okay, he's not actually driving anywhere. I gotcha. It's a bit.
Hello, and welcome to Driving on Salvia. I'm Eric, your host. Now, today we're going to take the car out onto the streets, and we're going to do some K-turns, and then we're going to do some U-turns, and then we're going to go
Jesus, he was young.
ahead and parallel park in a spot. Meanwhile... Ooh, excuse me. I have to go to space now.
Oh, that makes me uncomfortable. Ugh.
The park, and when we took it,
YouTube is 18 years old. It's funny. I remember when I started on YouTube in like 2012, I was like, damn, I wish I'd gotten early.
we kind of stood there, and after a moment, we kind of like rocking back and forth like a clock, like one of those old-fashioned clocks that just kind of like tick back and forth.
A clock, yeah.
And then to the left of me, to the right
A non-digital
of him,
clock.
it felt like we were getting pulled in the same direction. And
grandfather
I
clock.
looked over, and it seems like there was it's kind of like this shadow to the side of us. And it was nighttime, but it's like you could see this darker being right there, and it felt like it was pulling us in. And I couldn't really move. I had to jump out of where I was standing just to break free of the high itself. Well, once I jumped, we both got out of the high. So that was really interesting. I don't know if it was some kind of collective consciousness that like synchronized in the moment.
When the drugs wear off, you're supposed to not be... You're not... You're supposed to stop being outside of the bounds of reality. I think you kind of got stuck. This is like really unfortunate.
Well, what did
This, by the way, is one of the reasons people tell you, like, hey, if you have like a history of mental illness in your family, don't take hallucinogenic drugs. Like, I don't know if this guy has a history of that or not, but if you are already prone to like not being able to determine things from reality very well, it can be devastating to your worldview.
the figure look like?
It just looked like a shadow, kind of like I would say a portal, not like a figure, like a person, but it kind of looked like a circle in a way. So
Interesting. Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean when you say you were kind of rocking back and forth, like a force was pulling
Yeah.
you in one direction, then you would try and go the other, and then you would suddenly go this way again.
You were on drugs.
But in reality, when you film yourself, you're not actually moving much at all. This is the thing. I filmed my experiences, but I felt this constant snapping back and forth feeling. You know what I mean? Like everything was on repeat in that moment, like frame after frame, and I was in it. And I remember it's kind of like a portal, like you're saying, but I was kind of being sucked through it. And it had layers to the portal as it went, and as each layer went through me, I could literally feel it run through my body.
okay.
That was the first experience I had, and I was so overwhelmed. I was only 16. I've never done any drugs before in my entire life by this point. I've been doing research with my friend on blue light, and we were doing it together, filming each other. Quite atheistically mindset, like, what is this? What's going on? Let's do a proper experiment with this. And as soon as it took over, I went into shock mode because paradigm shattering. What am I looking at? What's going on? And I was scared. I had a bad trip. I even say no on the video, and then I just covered my face for a long time.
MH Dark Beast, I can't play clips, like, because I'm also streaming to Twitch or YouTube right now.
And I'm kind of moving in a very
If you tell me what the section is, though, I'll know it. I watched it last night.
spasmodic way is a good way to describe it. Literally, like snapping my arms around in weird ways. And it's not a good experience. It's a struggle from start to finish, is what I realized. Like as soon as you're in the high, you're kind of fighting to get out of it constantly.
Yeah.
That's what the experience is, and
Is
it amazes me.
Why would you take a drug like that? That sounds horrible. Why would you do that to yourself?
It's illegal. That is a legal high.
I know.
But you can buy it online, and in shops, at head shops. It's like this. At first, I thought, well, maybe all other drugs are worse than that. Far from it. I've done every other drug under the sun since then. And that drug is like, why is that legal? Why has no one done anything about this?
Yep.
One thing that's interesting as well, it's a standalone plant, a lot like cannabis, isn't it, Salvia? And it's just literally the dried leaves you smoke to get that high. And it lasts for about 10 minutes. And EMT too, which is a very similar experience. It lasts 10 minutes, sends you to another dimension, you come back, which I've done. That to me, because I think because we naturally produce it in our pineal glands, was an easy, loving, quite open experience. Though I'm not saying I should have done it or I should have been in that realm, because I didn't know what was on the other side when I was doing it then. I think I was actually friends
And now we know it's clowns.
with the demons then, the more I think about it, so they didn't bother with me. If I did it now as a Christian, I don't think I would have such a good trip. Now, maybe you consider that that's what you get, but I don't know. I think it's deeper than that. Because the world in Salvia,
Why am I streaming
to
on
me,
Twitch
felt
and
like I
YouTube? Because I
was
multi-stream now.
allowing a demon to possess me and take over
Because
my
it's
body.
allowed now.
With
Hi, Trick.
DMT, it was more like I've opened myself up to allowing a demon to get in, but I'm not quite there yet, if you get what I mean. It seems to be like Salvia, because people talk about the experience of meeting Lady Salvia, this green woman, every time they do the drug, who,
This just
purportedly
sounds
gives
like
them wisdom
absinthe.
of some kind,
This sounds like the same bullshit that people would say about absinthe. In this case, it's an actual hallucinogenic drug, but you know what I mean.
opens
Or the Hat Man and Benadryl.
the third eye or something. But Lady Salvia is a reoccurring entity that always appears for most people when they do Salvia enough. So that makes me wonder if the demons.
If you don't tell them that, I'm doubting it. If you prime people for that, yeah, they're probably going to see that at some point if they do the thing enough, because you're literally priming them for a specific hallucination.
The bodiless.
Hewitt Goblin says, this is a testament to how powerful hallucinogens are. I've done my share of them, and it's true that even in the case of a totally happy and safe trip, your brain is just not the same afterwards. Imagine being able to see the source of code in your own mind and then realizing that it's actually a part of a much larger networked program, and it is aware of you. My first acid trip was beautiful, but my god, it was intense. Totally get how it messes people up. Oh, yeah. Anodon Earhart, you want me to wear the devil horns? Can do.
Have they perhaps attached themselves to plants for us to further ingest and allow into our temple?
Okay.
What do you think of that?
That's interesting. The Lady Salvia, the green part, because I had. I'll share one more experience.
Go ahead.
There was a time where I when I took the drug, the end of it, I thought I died. But leading up to that, it felt like my path and my time was unraveling, if that makes any kind of sense. Like I jumped. It's like if my being was set in stone, my journey, my path was set in stone. It felt like I was unraveling from that path.
We've all seen The Time Knife.
And for some reason,
The Good Place is one of the best sitcoms, if not the best sitcom of all time. Please watch The Good Place. Don't Google it. You'll get spoiled.
if the world kind of caved in on itself, and then everything went black, and then it faded into this green, kind of like I had no body, and all I saw was like a green screen all around me.
Oh, I got a donation I
was-
missed. I apologize. Let me see where that was. P-Meal with a $10 donation, and it said... Where did it go? Congratulations once again to Dr. Blast. Science rules. Well, thank you very much on her behalf.
There was this kind of fence, like this grate on the green screen, just transforming into every shade of color there was. So that was kind of interesting. And then I like woke up after that, but
Yeah, it's interesting you say this room with a green screen kind of effect to it.
No, this is a podcast where conspiracy theorists talk.
That's something DMT trippers often talk about.
Have I seen increased donations or views since I started streaming on Twitch and YouTube at the same time? Increased views? Overall, yes. Fewer donations and stuff. Much fewer, like, gift subs and stuff on YouTube. Which might just be because it's December. December's usually a really bad month. In terms of, like, gift subs and bits and stuff. Because people are spending money on, like, Christmas. Understandably. So it's hard to say how much of that is just typical December slump. And how much is the dividing. So by January, if it's not, like, at least equivalent to what it used to be, then, like, I'm gonna have to reevaluate. But, like, right now, I'm still just seeing December's a weird month for stuff like this.
about when I was doing my research.
But
Into
that's like how the sausage is made. You don't want to know that. Like
The,
that's
DMT
business shit that you don't have to think about. That's on me to figure out.
jesters and the clowns on the other side. They often talk about being in like maybe a black and white checkered room or a fractal type room, like a box
Yeah.
per se. And it is fascinating to imagine something like the Matrix, like that's our vessel we're actually in, and the world around us is probably being projected on the walls of this box.
No, it's
And
not.
we think we're moving in the world, but we're actually very limited to these walled perceptions, maybe. Which maybe gives credence to what you were saying at the beginning, you know, that the world is not as physical as we believe it is. And
It's like they're trying to make a metaphor literal and completely losing the plot, like, in the process. When people talk about, like, reality being a projection, if they're speaking, like, academically, usually it's in response, or usually it's in reference to, rather, the idea that we don't actually see or feel things. We get sensory input, and then our mind creates holograms of the world. In this context, holograms don't mean, you know, light. They don't mean a holodeck like Star Trek. It means in your head, the construct of these things. You know, when I see this can, I don't really see the object that is the can because the object is outside of myself. All I can do is receive light bouncing off the can, which is going to go into my eyes, hit my optic nerve, send signals to my brain, which then creates the hologram of it. It's real to me, and it's the closest I can possibly get to the real thing, because that's what reality is to us. But it doesn't mean we literally live in a fake world. Far from it. It's just that all of our perceptions of reality are constructive. It's we are taking in inputs, incomplete inputs that aren't always processed correctly, and from that we get reality, our reality.
I don't believe it is as physical as we've been taught at all. And anyway, I've seen that it's not, you know, by doing these things. To say that our experiences aren't valuable while we're here. I do think it's still all created by God. And it was originally good.
Oh,
now it's...
I forgot, by the way. I did get a Amazon wishlist thing, and it says, I love this movie, great choice, enjoy, from Dylan, and it is Krull. So thank you, Dylan, for Krull. I appreciate it.
It's not. And that's our predicament. That's the conundrum mankind is in, if you understand. And a lot of New Agers, I've noticed, like to play around with the nature of the world, you know, and try and, as any good witch would do, or warlock, harness the power from this knowledge, you know, in some way to benefit themselves and get an edge over somebody. Mediums is a good example of this, or people who believe they have extrasensory perceptions. But I'm worried now that with the knowledge that the Nephilim are there, and that is kind of their home right now as we speak, the second heaven, we'll call it, if we should be dabbling in these things. If anyone in the chat it disagrees with me completely and wants to scream and argue with me about that fact, I've had many people do it before. Come on and go ahead. I'm welcome to debate these things. What do you think about all of this? Do you think there are demons on the other side and drugs may not be a good thing now, or do you think there's some...
Don't take drugs. You'll get in touch with the demons. I like that we're taking like all of the different scares from the past, satanic panic, drug panic, demon panic. Like, we're just all mixing it into a pot of the worst delusional conspiracies. It's beautiful.
Something to offer with them.
I've not seen the new Godzilla yet.
I think we need to keep a sober mind. I'm
yes,
not
he's talking to his
sure
friend.
if hallucinogens are a problem with other dimensions. I'm not too sure about all that. But with demons and entities on the other side, I think it's possible. I haven't had too many personal experiences with figures trying to come at me, so I can't say too much about that. But I've seen people lose themselves, and it does seem like they became a whole nother person. I don't want to say they became possessed. I want to say more emotions and dark parts of them took over. And I think that might be what it is. And maybe there is a dark force that converts them on this path.
It's so interesting that it seems like to them everything negative is external. Like, if there's any, like, problem, for instance, their friend went on some sort of drug trip, maybe multiple times, and now they are a worse person or behave differently, they aren't going to a place of assuming that something went wrong internally, like the drug trip did something to their brain, or they had a traumatic experience or something that changed the way that they looked at the world or themselves. It has to be external, becoming a problem, a demon or something coming in to fuck up the homeostasis that they think is the natural order, I guess. It's interesting.
Well, Carl Jung believed, obviously, and so did Freud, that within all of us is this unspeakable darkness that we all kind of deny we have, but we all have. And life is coming to an acceptance that that is there. And if you don't accept,
That is not at all what the fuck. What?
is this
Freud. First of all, Freud is not right about plenty of things. He was obsessed with, like, sexual dynamics in development, right? He had an obsession with, like, sexual stuff and made it out to be a much bigger deal than it actually is in a lot of things, at the expense of other things. But second of all, sure, Freud talked about the repression of certain desires, the repression of what is considered, like, unacceptable socially to oneself, to one's super ego, whatever. And he certainly talked about the concept of the id, and that there is this part of your mind that exists to only want, right? But that doesn't mean that we are full of unspeakable evil. What a very strange word to put in his mouth.
unspeakable darkness that we all kind of deny we have, but we all have. And life is coming to an acceptance that that is there. And if you don't accept that's there, you're naive, and the beginning of wisdom is not within you, essentially. I think a good example is people who suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome after war. Let's say they've come back from war and they've fallen apart into pieces and can't really understand life anymore. You find that it's not that these people are tough per se and have seen some horrible things, it's that they were naive when they went to war, capable of. And the people who have post-traumatic stress syndrome have usually done something they didn't believe was possible, or even know they could have done.
Terrible.
The most atrocious.
For the record, please don't listen to anything this guy is saying vis-a-vis fucking psychology or PTSD or anything. He is absolutely talking out of his ass.
Heinous acts. They've seen their own peers and comrades on the front line do things to humans which beggars belief. But that's something I think we all have to come to terms with. I think Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this.
Oh, he's citing Jordan Peterson. That explains a lot.
Oh, this psychiatrist who's kind of come out on the side. And he's giving an archetypical discussion of the biblical stories right now, which is quite interesting from a psychological perspective. And that's something he brought up about the problem of evil. It has to be accepted that it might not all be demonic. It might actually be you. And that's the Bible. The Bible makes that clear. You know, man is fallen. Cain was only the second from Adam, and he was a murderer. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
I feel like if in your discussion of psychoanalysis you start talking about Cain and Abel like they are literal real beings that you can analyze, I don't know what to do with that. I don't.
Yeah.
That never stopped, should we say? You know, that's within all of us. We could all kill our brother if it got to that. And that's kind of the scary truth we all kind of have to accept. Because if you don't know that, how can you ever stop yourself from going that far? You know what I mean?
I've never felt the need to murder a hypothetical brother because I wanted the meat to sacrifice to the Lord.
Have to know it exists in order to fight the dragon type of thing.
Fight the
but at
dragon.
the same time, because I have done things like psychedelics and I know there's other dimensions.
You do not know there's other dimensions. You went on a drug trip and you decided that it was a real thing instead of hallucinogenic. That's not knowing something. Ugh.
I don't. And obviously people have witnessed, there's plenty of testimonies saying, you know, we've seen these weird entities on the other side. I'm going to believe, yeah, there probably are.
A bunch of people said it. Did you know that the plural of anecdote isn't evidence?
literal entities on the other side, but it's not just as black and white as that they're responsible for all the evil in the world. I agree. I think, yeah, we have our part to play. You know,
Yeah.
we should probably take that on ourselves and go, okay, I'm not that innocent, and I know I'm not. You know, every now and then the evil bubbles up in me too, and I've scared myself half to death whenever that happens. So yeah, interesting. Is there any other topics you want to bring
That's the red flag. The little red flag's popping up. Concerned?
up? I'm going to have a look in the chat while you're doing that. But is there anything at all you've seen recently, maybe in the news, that's riled up your interests?
There was not too long ago, I want to say somewhere in South Africa, there was this possession and a bunch of girls. I think they did, in a Ouija board, maybe something as such. And
To be clear, Ouija board is the trademark of Parker Brothers International. Was it a Ouija board, or was it just sparkling occult?
a lot of them became possessed. They're
Seriously though, it's a spirit board if it's not a Ouija board.
acting crazy. They had to be carried away.
I think was it in the Philippines or something? I know what you mean. It was a bunch of screaming schoolgirls,
Yeah.
and they were all kind of in like a white blouse of some kind, and they're all kind of just being literally carried out while screaming and wailing of classrooms and things like that. Yeah, that is eerie. You know, as far as you understand, it happens a lot more in countries like this, less developed countries, it seems,
Yep.
or countries that are very.
Overthought says, small thing, but it bugs me when people say another dimension, they mean a parallel universe, but it's a colloquial thing, so whatever, I guess. That is something I haven't really thought about. We talk about another dimension, even though that's not really what the word dimension means. Language is weird.
Rooted in pagan ideologies, shall we say. You know, Adam, obviously Christianity is there, it's all over the world. But you find a lot of these countries that don't really know Jesus per se, or more seem to.
I'm just gonna be honest. I think at this point, most countries know about Jesus. Just like, even though you're in America or Canada or something, you know about Hinduism, at least vaguely, right? At this point, I think the saturation of people knowing about Jesus is pretty peak. I think that American and sort of Western cultural influence has spread, that name everywhere. I don't think there's that many people who don't know it. I think you did it. You did the commission. Good job. Marcus Drake says, based on that guy's bubbling evil comment, the one thing I believe is that they've looked for screaming schoolgirls online.
To go through these things. I mean, did you ever see that video of the man eating the burning wood?
What?
Did you ever see that before?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
No, there's a look for it. Type in "man eating fire" or something like that, and you'll see it. And it's literally some tribe.
You mean fire eating? Fire eating is like he's got to be talking about something other than just fire eating, right? Because that's like an old thing that performers have done for a long time. I'm sure it's existed in different cultures and different contexts, not just for entertainment. I'm sure it's been used for like spiritual, ritualistic purposes in different places around the world. But that's not like a magic thing. We know how that's done. Like circus performers do that.
Tribesman in some jungle somewhere has a piece of wood in his hand, which is literally on fire, burning. He blows out the fire and just munches it like it's nothing. And he gets a light bulb and eats that like it's nothing. No blood, no cuts in his mouth.
Yes, these are all, again, tricks that have been done by sideshow performers as well. If this is someone's, like, actual spiritual beliefs, I don't think they should do that. I think they'll die eventually. Just saying. But, these aren't miraculous. They're impressive, although not something anyone should do at home. But they are explicable. We know how this is done. You can Google how people eat light bulbs for, like, that kind of trick. You can Google how people do this.
Not a problem. And when you look at his eyes, there's actually generally slits in his eyes. His pupils are gone and they're green. So I do wonder, what would be the benefits of working with demons? Well, I think that might be one of them.
I feel like if I was offered anything from a demon, like, hey, I'm a demon, what powers do you want? I would not immediately go to, I want to be able to eat light bulbs and hot sticks. It's just not that impressive.
Eating wood.
there's always a catch. Obviously, he's lost his damned in that respect, and he needs to be saved. And I'm sure he's tortured, but the ability to make a man invincible is something these things possibly
He's not invincible, he just knows how to do certain things, or he has trick light bulbs.
could do. But why would little girls choose to do these things in a school? Probably ignorance.
Yep,
Probably
it's all
yeah.
ignorance.
What have they been told to believe it was a good idea to begin with? What do you think?
They're probably taught that, oh, it's just TV and movies, nothing's really gonna happen. And being in an environment as such where they don't really have much stability, I think.
Are you aware that in TV and movies and books and every medium where the deal with the devil, the Faustian bargain, that trope exists? That trope exists to ward you against it. Metaphorically, of course, because it's not real. But again, it's about, like, be careful what you wish for. It's not literally trying to tell you anything about deals with Satan, because Satan isn't a literal real being you can make deals with. It's not priming you to make deals. Oh, God.
It's easier to be more controlled and possessed in a way, so...
Maybe. I don't know myself. It baffles me why, even if you don't think it's real, why would you bother even trying? That's what I wonder sometimes.
Exactly.
This is where I think, you all know, really. You're all just lying to me when you say you don't believe in stuff like this. I think everybody believes. It's just the responsibility that comes with accepting it's real is scary for most people.
That's called presuppositionalism, and it's pretty weak. No, not everyone believes in literal demons or the supernatural. They do not. You do. Okay, that's its own discussion. But to assume that everyone automatically already believes the thing that you believe is lazy. That's incredibly lazy.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world.
Exactly, and it's easy to just say it isn't real and get on with your sins, I suppose. Oftentimes I wish I could do that. I do wonder, like the guy eating the steak in the Matrix, it's like, can I go back? Is it possible? I wouldn't want to go back really, but it does get hard.
Yeah.
It does get hard.
What is your version of eating the steak? And you were talking about doing evil and it bubbling up? I'm so concerned. What things does this guy want to do?
And I want to make that clear to everyone else. Don't be ashamed. You're not alone if you're struggling. Not at all. There's something here.
Fooble said, I believe in the DVD box set of Supernatural. Blu-ray, though, not DVD. Your faith has been rewarded.
Which I've written down. Just a few talking points.
Okay.
The rise of socialism recently. Have
Oh no! The rise of socialism.
you noticed this yourself, or is it just me?
No, it's becoming a thing, yeah.
The revivification of communist ideals and socialism, and the idea of bigger governments, more state control being a good thing.
I think what you're thinking of is the government being effective in using regulations and helping apply its power to protect workers and make sure workers have power. And also you're conflating socialism and communism, and they're not the same thing.
Seizing the means of production, I suppose, and redistributing wealth to those who, I don't know, the victims versus the oppressed type of mentality, and
it would be about making sure people are fairly paid for their work and people are taken care of if they aren't able to take care of themselves. Those seem like pretty cool things, like promoting the general welfare, all that stuff, what it says in the Constitution.
We need to take money off the oppressors and give it to the victims, and that'll make everyone get along. Obviously, this is a tried and tested, failed ideology throughout the 20th century, responsible for conservative estimates,
He's gonna do the thing.
100 million people.
Did you guys know that literally the only version of socialism is authoritarian Soviet Union Stalinism? Fact.
worse than the Nazis, you know, and I see kids literally my age walking around donning communist flags around them. And to me, that's no different than going around with a Nazi flag in the street. Yet
That's definitely not true. I also don't vibe the whole Soviet Union aesthetic. Like, if I see people using the symbols of the, like, you know, the sickle and hammer, I'm kind of like, optically, that's not great. But no, they're also not the same thing morally, even close.
they seem completely oblivious to this. And I was thinking about socialism, you know, especially coupled with this postmodern way of thinking that nothing is real, everything is relative. Or
Most things are relative. That doesn't mean that you can't find truth. That doesn't mean that you can't know facts, but it does mean that you need to understand the context that those facts arise within.
your beliefs and ideas are simply a result of tradition, and tradition isn't real. So if you get rid of tradition...
Do you understand the difference between the word real and a social construct? Something being a social construct doesn't mean it's not real. Like, social constructs are things like money. Money is real. It is the power to control your life, and they're important. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that they're constructed. Like a lot of things in society, society itself is a social construct. It is the social construct.
We can build from scratch type of ideologies. It's like a there's a name for it, isn't it? Like a duo of death, like them two coming together, just utter destruction. And to me, it sounds purely satanic. It seems to me like a
I think this sounds satanic.
manifestation of...
That's the last refuge of just, like, intellectual... You just jump off a cliff intellectually when you're like, I think this is the work of Satan. Ooh.
Satan's way of viewing.
Did the literal manifestation of evil do the thing you don't like? That means you're super serious, huh? Tea with Goblin says, the key distinction is that there aren't people with Soviet-era ideologies and intentions currently insinuating themselves with horrifying ease into the US government. Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Things manifesting in the youth of today, and it panics me. I mean, you may have noticed we had an election in the UK recently.
Yes.
Yeah, and Jeremy Corbyn was the opposition, I suppose, to Theresa May, who's the Conservative Party. Now, I say conservative, their
This is so funny, this part. Guys, this is so fucking funny.
pockets aligned with EU money. They are not conservative. They are just a socialist, although they choose to hide it. They're crypto socialists, if you want to call them anything, who pretend to be conservatives, pro-EU type people.
He called the Tories crypto socialists.
But it was them versus Jeremy Corbyn, who is a full-on outspoken Marxist, basically.
Jeremy Corbyn is a Marxist. That's beautiful.
And he was all about, you know, full globalization. Let's reverse Brexit. Let's give everyone...
Brexit has actually been quite bad for the UK economically and socially, so maybe put a bookmark in that.
Free stuff. All tuition fees will be cut, promising the world to all these naive children. And he actually managed to get an extra 1.7 million young voters to register. And it scares the crap out of me, because this is my generation and not one of them knows anything about history or understands what Marxism is responsible for. So it panics me. It panics me. You know, while we're over here in the conspiracy world looking at all the Satanism and, you know, Luciferianism and secret societies, we literally have quite a beast we've already, or at least we thought we've already slain, rising up from the dead and getting its grips and tentacles into the minds of our youth, and it's simply just socialism. And I do think socialism may be the platform, shall we say, which the House of Cards of the New Age is going to be built upon. So I'm really worried about this, because the ideologues out there on Facebook or the social media, let's say, are out in droves right now in England, berating anybody who has a slightly right of left opinion.
The irony of you calling everyone you disagree with a socialist or a communist or Marxist, including Jeremy fucking Corbyn, and then being mad that you think that people just to the left of, or just to the right of whatever you are, whatever, or just to the right of what you think society deems acceptable, you think that you get called, what, a Nazi just 'cause? Kinda usually, I'm gonna be honest, I think people get called Nazis when they say Nazi shit. Believe me. I've not seen anything so far than, like, that's an immediate Nazi red flag. Though, to be honest, conspiracy theories get pretty close to that most of the time. But, see? I haven't said anything so far because it wasn't valid. If you're getting called a Nazi all the time, maybe consider why. What are you saying when people call you that? Just a thought.
You know, the center doesn't exist anymore. If you're slightly this far from the far left, you're a Nazi now in their eyes. And
I am so curious what his positions are specifically that get him called that.
it's dangerous. The division in my country is terrifying, and I hope more Americans start talking about this and paying attention, because conspiracy theorists don't seem to realize, you know, we may need the Americans to come over and save us.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yikes.
On top of that, obviously, we have a growing Muslim problem.
Yeah.
And I might go to prison for just saying.
Gee, I wonder why he keeps getting called a Nazi. Oh boy. You get it. I'm gonna move on to the next video, cause, well, that was the punchline. Let's pull up the... One second. The flat Earth thing. There was a debate between, that one pastor and a flat earther, and I did want to watch that today. Let me see if I can find the link real quick. I know someone sent it and I saved it. I just gotta find what folder I put it under. Should I put it under religious stuff, probably? Yeah, the Greg Locke one. Yeah. I know I put it somewhere. Maybe if I just do this. Greg. You put it in the conspiracy thread? Oh, here it is anyway. Awesome.
Exciting.
Let's check it out. Just gotta see exactly when it starts.
Of men who hold.
Because I don't think it was the whole time.
That you look
At least I don't think it was the whole thing. It's not the whole thing, is it? Let me look at the Discord you posted. You would even say it close. All of the other reindeer. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. There it is. This has someone else's commentary over it, though.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just get to the part of the thing.
Which told me that the world is a meaningless accident. I had to first understand the very foundation of their...
been outdated. Our snarkiness, you know, we get a little beliefs about flat earth conspiracy. And because we don't serve.
Okay. So it looks like it starts out after his little intro. So this is Greg Locke. He is a hate preacher, just so everyone knows. Fair warning, I do not agree with his stances and stuff, but it is interesting. We're going to be seeing a right-wing evangelical preacher arguing with another Christian flat earther. They're going to be doing a debate, and I thought that would be interesting to take a look at. So, you might remember this guy from the one who claimed he found witches in his church. He's that guy.
exciting. I know, obviously, that not just some of our church folk are here, but a lot of other churches and other church folk are here. And then some non-church folk are here as well, and that's okay. I'm just glad that everybody is in the house tonight. Amen. I'm honored that you're here. We even have people outside that aren't happy to be here. I'm not sure why they showed up, but they're here nonetheless. And I promise everyone will be well protected and respected tonight in this discussion and in this debate. So I want to say just a word before I bring up my friend, and I do mean my friend. Many of you don't know anything about the context of our church. I know you're finding bathrooms, and we're pretty high-tech redneck around here. We've been in tent church for 4 years, and so a lot of people aren't used to that. As it gets a little cooler, we'll crank on the heaters, and we'll get things to a comfortable level for you in the house.
DM Trace is getting ready for fancy dinner tonight. Great watching the stream, and I wish everyone a great night. I hope you have a great night.
But let me just say this. Not everybody's here for a flat spherical earth debate, right? Some people are here, maybe you're searching, you know, maybe your mind's already made up, or for some of you, maybe you're here for the wrong reason. Let me just say this. If you're here for the wrong reason, would you please let everyone else enjoy what's going to happen tonight in the house?
What the fuck does that mean? Here for the wrong reason? People who just think it's interesting?
We would appreciate that very, very much. As Christians, and I have to talk from a Christian...
Take this flat earth debate seriously, damn it.
...perspective, because I'm a Christian and I'm a pastor. And I know not everybody in the room is a Christian, nor am I forcing that upon you. We'll both preach the gospel tonight. We're gospel preachers. We're not heretics. We believe that Jesus is not a way, but the one and only way to the kingdom of God. We believe that in this room, okay? Now, there are some things that we are worlds apart on. Worlds apart. There are things that we're worlds apart on, there is no doubt. And we'll discuss those things. But listen to me very close. We have a lot of live stream cameras going, including all of our platforms, many other platforms, Pastor Dean's platform. And so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of working parts tonight, right? We got security. We got all of that. We don't want to have to quiet anybody down, okay? We don't want to have to, you know, drag anybody out. And so let's just all be friends and family. Listen, the worst thing about this culture, one of really the top 3 worst things about this culture, is we think that disagreement is automatic discrimination. We can disagree and be okay about some things, right? At the end of the day, God's right, right? God's right. I'm not right. He's not right. You're not right. They're not right. It's not us and them. And so listen very...
But you're the one saying you think you know what God wants. So the onus comes to you again, doesn't it?
Very closely. I'm going to talk, and our people know I cry as much as I preach sometimes. So it's a weird context to cry in, but let me just share something with you from my heart that I think is important, and we're going to get started, and we're really going to have a good time tonight. Might get lively, might get a little dicey, but it's going to be fun, right? It's going to be fun. We're going to let the
normal
Word of God
playback
do its work,
speed.
and we're coming tonight from a strictly Christian perspective. But listen to me. As much as in this room there are great levels of varying degrees of disagreement, understand that at the end of the day, we want to leave being friends, being Christians, being somewhat unified as we can. We will, as believers, attack perhaps ideas and ideologies, but we're not going to tolerate attacking people and attacking individuals, okay? He's not here to attack me, and I'm not here to attack him. Now, both of us have very demonstrative personalities. And so both of us will have to harness ourselves a little bit, and that's okay. And that's just part of who we are. That's why God made us, and perhaps that's the reason that God of the universe put us up here on this platform and maybe not some others, because we know when we...
How long does he fucking do the intro for? Oh my god.
Sound right, and we can write that down. So then after I get through with my discussion, he can then get up and give a rebuttal to what I said, and then I'll get up after that and give a rebuttal to some of the things that I wrote down what he said. And the only way to keep us from going back to back over and over again and making things boring and mundane is to split it up that way, all right? So again, we're not going to answer everybody's questions. What I found in this debate is that, holy smokes, this debate could go for a week. There's a lot of YouTube videos.
It really couldn't. I really couldn't. Someone more knowledgeable on science could have probably wrapped it up real quick.
Videos. There's a lot of Twitter, right? There's a lot of
They really need a moderator. Well, I don't think Greg would want that.
Facebook. There's a lot of stuff on both sides of the. We're not going to
Moderators are a good thing, by the way, to have in debates.
to deal with all of
no matter
it
who
tonight,
you are,
but we're going to do the
moderators
best
are great.
that we possibly can. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to respectfully get on your feet and give a good applause for the man of God, Pastor Dean Olu. Come on up here, Pastor. Thank you for being at our house tonight. We honor you. We welcome you. Hallelujah. All righty. Wonderful. Well, amen. Thank you, brother. Whew. Well, we're going to have a lively time tonight. It's going to be exciting. I want you to just, kind of welcome the people and just kind of give us, and again, we won't take a long, long time with this, but, hey, church it until tomorrow, and you drove a long ways to get here, many of you, and so it's going to be a good time. Kind of give us just a working idea in the ministry of how you were led into this.
Mike isn't working.
I came back to, I got saved when I was 11 years old in a little Baptist church in Opelika, Alabama, Northside Baptist Church, and I was truly born again. I mean, I had powerful hell to read and accept.
There we go.
Around me. I didn't know what the glory of God was. I was 11 years old. But the glory of God was around me as I walked down the aisle. I remember stepping out of the aisle. I don't remember walking down it. And I got up there with the pastor and prayed and accepted Jesus, and I was powerfully born again and baptized not long after that. But then, of course, I got into my teenage years. My parents divorced, and so we quit going to church. And, of course, like most teenagers, I got into, my friends kind of drew me into alcohol and drugs and sexual immorality, and I got into all that real heavy during my high school years and my first year in college. And so when I was 19 years old, I decided, well, I'm going to go out and work. In fact, I was in Alabama. I was at Troy State University. It's now Troy.
Overthought. Thanks for gifting us
I
sub.
was really feeling depressed. I was partying. I was in Sigma Chi fraternity. I was getting drunk every night and partying every night. And I was getting burnout. And I had a modeling contract. I was supposed to be in the first Die Hard movie and all that stuff. And so I was getting ready to do that.
That's a Christmas movie, by the way.
Wait, what? Did you just say you were supposed to be in the first Die Hard movie? What a strange thing that may or may not be true. Huh. That's too... You know what? I'll even say I believe it. That's too weird to make up. That is a weirdly specific thing. You were a model and you were going to be in the first Die Hard movie.
I just want you to know that.
It is. Yeah, my favorite ornament's the one where he's in the air duct. And yeah. I was going to just go work for the summer, and I was going to work for the summer and then go to Hollywood. Actually, that's where I was headed. And God had other plans. The guy I started working for started talking to me about Jesus, and I knew everything he was saying was true. And then when he finally used the scripture...
What do you mean? That's such a weird... I knew everything he was saying is true. How? What? What do you mean? What?
Galatians, he said, no drunkard's going to inherit the kingdom of God, and I was a drunkard, man. And... I was convicted for 3 weeks, and then somewhere on my day off, about a month into this, the Holy Spirit spoke to me. The first time I really know that God spoke to me, and he said, son, you can have everything the world has to offer and go to hell, or you can surrender your life to me and live forever. And he was making me choose. And I could see if I went to Hollywood,
that's
what
just
was
a
happen.
threat.
He gave me a vision. I saw it.
That's not really a choice as much as it is an ultimatum, is it?
And I said, well, Lord, I'm going to go with you. And I told him, I said, Lord, I'm going with you or I'm not going at all. I will not be a hypocrite. And so I went and prayed with my boss that day and repented of my sins and really quit the drinking and the drugs and the alcohol and the sexual immorality and turned my life over to Jesus. And I've had some powerful experiences with him. Just shortly after that, I had an open vision of heaven, saw him. He called me to the ministry. That's a whole other story. But so I started preaching when I was 19, preaching on the street and witnessing to people. My first convert was a high-level Satanist witch, and that was...
Come on! I always hate this kind of thing is always full of so much bullshit where they're making up Satanists and witches and covens and...
That was an experience. I learned a lot there. And in fact... I've been doing deliverance since 1987, brother.
Amen. Yeah,
And then, of course, you know, then God began to progress me on and have me start planting churches, and I did that. And I've done a little bit of everything, preached in prisons and did evangelism and did college campus ministry all over the country and stuff like that, and been to preach in the Middle East, spent time in the Middle East, Africa, the island of Mauritius, out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So I've led a lot of people to Jesus over the years. A lot of them are pastors now, ministers now. So I've been in the ministry
pyramid
a long
scheme.
time. And so in 2008, I was in a church
High
in
level, was
Washington,
she at
D.C.
least
I was
10?
kind of under working on staff. I
She made it
wasn't
to
the head guy.
17. She
And
was
I found out that
17th
they were
level.
compromised in a lot of
They were a
areas, and
week away from
actually
finishing the
semi-pro
campaign.
abortion. It was horrible. And I knew the Lord wanted me to speak up and deal with it and confront it, so I did. And the Lord told me, he said, they're going to fire you on November 30th. It's 2008. They're going to fire you. And I said, yeah, okay. They're going to fire you, and then when you do, I want you to go back to your hometown and start a church. So they fired me on November 30th, and I went back home, and we started Fire and Grace Church in Opelika, Alabama. We're right next door to Auburn University, so I'm a big Auburn fan. And that's where we started 2009. So fast forward, you know, I preach on just about everything. I talk about the Nephilim, the giants, the alien stuff, you know, I talk about everything. And that's why I'm going to this place, because in 2015, the Lord spoke to me about 2 months before God really opened my eyes to this. And he said, I got something else to show you, and it's big. And I thought, what in the world could it be? I mean, I'm already casting demons out of Christians. I'm already, you know, ostracized with that. I had to walk away from the Assemblies of God, just become independent, you know. And I said, what could it be? And so a friend of mine that had gotten saved out in Hollywood, I mean, this guy worked with all the big folks in Hollywood. He gotten saved, and I was kind of mentoring and discipling him from a distance. And one day he just sent me this question. He said, does firmament earth ring a bell? Now, he's already a little strange being in Hollywood, but I was like, what is he talking about? I don't even know. So he sent me this video. And it said nothing about flat earth or biblical cosmology. It said nothing about it in the beginning, but I just started watching it. And the first part of it was a lot about NASA's fakery, where they've been caught faking stuff with the ISS and all kind of stuff, and the moon landings and all that. And I already didn't believe in the moon landing. So he sent me this, and I'm like, what is he talking about? But as it got about halfway through it, the Holy Spirit just came all over me. I knew. I said, you know what?
So interesting to me, when I listen to Christians talk about the Holy Spirit, it appears to me that when they do it, you could often replace the occurrence of the Holy Spirit with just like the word a powerful feeling. It seems like some people just think any powerful feeling or sense of spiritual fulfillment, a sense of great desire or a feeling of confidence, all of these things they've decided to define as the Holy Spirit. And you can't really, like, how do you contend with that if from someone's youth, virtually, they've predetermined and been told that normal feelings that everyone has are supernatural in some way? Can you just say that to them? They're not going to believe you. They're not going to understand. It's interesting.
What? They've lied about everything. Not just some things, but everything. And I began to see, you know, the high altitude balloon footage, and there is no curve, and the long distance photography, and there is no curve, and we've done the experiments ourselves with. And
the long distance photography, in fact, continues to serve as evidence for the curve, because the long distance photograph records have to take into account how high up they are when they're figuring out how far they're going to shoot, because they do shoot over the curve. So you have to have a high enough elevation that you can see over curvature.
So I began to see these things.
Same thing with, like, sniper shots, like world record sniper shots. Those also have to take into account the curve of the Earth.
And I was like, wow. And then I pulled the Bible out again and went back and go, you know, I began to realize I have believed what men had to say about God's creation, instead of what the Bible just plainly said. And
so easy to get applause in these kind of churches. You just have to be like, and I just trust the Bible. I just do what God says. Like, you just got to repeat that. Throw that in there. Give a little pause, and people will applaud. Remember, I hate referencing Family Guy, but remember that episode where Lois was like 9, 11, and everyone clapped.
And I realized, you know, even in my younger days, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would read Joshua 10, where Joshua told
These are like their opening statements for the debate.
the earth. He told, you know, he's standing on the earth, and he tells the sun and the moon to stop moving. And I would always say, wait a minute, Lord, how does this happen? Because he didn't say tell the earth to stop spinning. So that always troubled me. I could never reconcile that in my mind with what I had been taught from a child. And once God opened my eyes to this, and then I began to see the evidence, and which I'm going to share a lot of that. I began to see the evidence. I pulled my Bible out, and I pulled out my Strong's and my Greek and Hebrew dictionaries and lexicons and started going back through it all. And, you know, and I had to admit that I hadn't just taken God's word literally.
Oof, Peep Lord.
In those areas.
I see the joke. I don't want to read it, though.
Of how he described, he created the earth. And that it was still in its
Yeah,
rest,
I can turn them up.
It was motionless, that it was stable, that it was not flying through this vast universe. That he didn't teach any of that. And so it took me about a month. I couldn't sleep much because I just kept studying and studying and studying. And then finally, the Lord had me share it to our church. And I turned off everything. I turned off our public broadcast and said, I'm just going to share it to our church and see how they respond. And it's been amazing. And then that was 8 years ago. And man, it's been quite the ride since then. I mean, it's exploded, and here we are. Yeah. But that's my side of it.
Yeah, a lot of our folks, and even a lot of people watching, maybe aren't as into this and understand the reality of it. And that's one of the reasons I think it's good that two pastors are discussing and debating this from a biblical creationist standpoint. But what I find, and some of this no doubt is perception, because this is so new to me, and you have to understand, I'm going to be a little bit guarded in the way that I discuss things tonight, because I can be very bombastic, right? And I don't want to seem abrasive. I don't want to come off as a jerk for Jesus. But here's one of the things that bothers me from the beginning. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions, because you're really the one that we brought here to explain maybe what we don't understand, what we're trying to figure out, right? And so there's no need for me to ask myself these questions. And so the first one is, I have a hard time with the people that see factual things, and I'm not talking about curves and all that. I'm not talking about looking out the window of an airplane and all of that, right? We could argue that till the cows come home. But I watched this show, this Behind the Curve, right? And there were 3 times in that documentary where the evidence proved rotation. And
is the creationist, the young earth creationist, trying to use science to disprove the flat earther? Interesting.
Curvature. And in each occasion, the flat earth individual said, you know, it's not going the direction that we want it to go. And then, of course, they ended the whole show with, well, that's interesting, right? And so my question is, why is it that when we do come up with an argument, it seems like it doesn't matter what we say, you're just not going to believe it? Does that make sense? How can you just reject the evidence?
That works both ways.
Yeah. Oh, understood. Yes.
Because we show evidence, and then everybody, you know, people go, well, I don't care. Here's the thing about whether it be the gyroscope, that electronic gyroscope, and I remember that. Now, you got to remember, you got to look at things like just because somebody does an experiment, that experiment has to be repeated again and again and again and observed again and again before you realize it. But see, Michelson Morley, the 2 scientists in the days of Einstein, did an experiment, the famous one, where they proved that the Earth was not moving through.
No, that experiment, I believe, is the one that disproved the idea of the ether. So no, you're wrong. That's not what that experiment did.
Through the ether, and the ether was
it disproved the ether.
Accepted concept back then, and really
it falsified it. God damn it!
More and more physicists are coming to accept the ether. Now, what the ether is it's an unseen. You can see it sometimes if you zoom in on the moon, but it's actually a dense type, superfluid type gas. It gets more dense as you go up, and I've talked about it a lot, but here's what they discovered. When Michelson and Morley did their experiment, they did find 1/6 movement, okay? Because the ether is moving. The ether is what we believe the sun and the moon are moving in a circuit, as the Bible says in Psalm 19, that the sun and the moon's moving in a circuit over us, and that they're at a certain altitude, and that literally that ether current is what's pushing it around. I found government documents that actually admit this, that they believe in the ether current and they believe in the ether. So the ether is moving. So certain instruments, like when Michelson Morley did their test to see if the Earth was moving, and the gyroscope, sometimes they're going to pick up the movement of the ether, and not necessarily doesn't mean that the Earth is spinning. Now, like one of the big arguments of the global side, the spinning ball side, is the Foucault pendulum. But what we have discovered is that in Smithsonian, I actually have the documents. The Smithsonian admits that they use an electromagnet to move it. And my friend Matt Long is here, who used to work, where are you, Matt? There he is back there. Matt Long used to work for a construction company that actually installed one of those electromagnets on the pendulum.
Again, I think they fundamentally don't understand what the point of the pendulum experiment is. The point of the pendulum experiment isn't that it, like, is moving at all because of the shape of the Earth. Someone needs to put that initial, like, potential energy into it to get it to start swinging. It's that while it swings on a free-moving pendulum, the actual direction of the swing changes with the rotation of the Earth. Yes, someone needs to put energy into it because it's not going to move forever, but it needs to have something to make it go like this. The way that it actually swings is what the actual experiment does.
Pendulum. So they say, they try to tell us in the media, through the media and the agenda, is that the Earth spinning is what's moving the pendulum. But you have tour guides that will admit...
The Earth spinning is what changes the direction of the pendulum.
When the Foucault pendulum, they'll admit that they have a motor on it, an electromagnet motor, that if it was left alone, it'd stand still, but they keep it moving. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of stuff that's put out for evidence, but once you really look at it, and you could even find them admitting it, that it's kind of gets debunked real quick. But there's a movement in the ether for sure. But let me just say this too. I've spent hours. I am the one that put out the government documents, because I spent one day I sat down with a cup of coffee, and at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get up until 5 that afternoon, digging through the Freedom of Information Act room where there's declassified documents there. I found Russian and United States military, CIA, you name it, documents that admit that we live on a non-rotating flat Earth. And I could give you literally dozens and dozens and dozens of those documents that our government admits it, but they kept it secret from us. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of evidence. And the original science, in fact, Einstein created his famous theory of relativity because once that Michelson Morley proved by scientific, they admitted that their experiment proved that the Earth was not moving.
No, they didn't. What are you talking about?
But they could not accept that because they were hardcore Copernicans.
It's not that they couldn't accept it, it's that they realized that they had falsified the thing that they were trying to observe. They falsified because they were trying to detect that aether that you're talking about. That's an old-timey hypothesis that they are famous for falsifying. They didn't give up. They said, okay, we discovered a new thing. The thing that we thought we were going to measure, we couldn't. It's not real. We cannot measure it. That's been falsified. That's not them, like, hiding something. It's them admitting that their hypothesis was falsified. That's how science works.
And they just didn't accept it. And so he came up with the E equals MC squared theory, right? But Tesla said his theory was just a bunch of hogwash, and he was a fuzzy-headed idiot. And Tesla was the one that was the real inventor.
Did you hear those hoots and hollers for someone shitting on Einstein? Woo!
And true scientists. So
true scientists. Jesus Christ.
So what I'm saying is that it works both ways, you know. But you gotta. I will say this: people that are on our side, my side about this issue, the other side, you have to remember this about us. We believed everything you believed before, you know, because that's what we were taught. You know, we didn't have a choice. I mean, from childhood on up, that's ingrained in your head that we're spinning and flying through an ever-expanding universe. But here's the reason why you know that's not true. We can observe it, but see, remember, brainwashing stops you from being able to think and even accept what you observe. Now, they tell us we're going around the Earth 66,000 miles an hour, 67. I mean, it changes all the time. And they say we're going around the sun. Then they say that we're moving 500,000 miles an hour through our solar system. And then it says that our solar system is moving through the ever-expanding galaxies at 500,000 miles an hour. Now, we do that. They say we're doing that we've been doing that for thousands of years, and yet Polaris, the North Star, never moves.
Relative to us, yes, it does. There's a wobbling precession that happens. The actual North Star changes every couple thousand years or something. You can observe it, but you have to observe it using instruments because it's too little for the naked eye to see.
When somebody does time-lapse, focuses on the North Star, and does time-lapse photography.
Okay, you'd need to do time-lapse photography for like 2,000 years. Are you doing that?
The circles that the star trails are perfectly circular. And every night I can walk out at my house and point in a direction, and Orion's belt will come up in the same place every night. Now, if we're flying, spiraling, spinning through an ever-expanding universe, then the stars we see should have changed. But we can look back at the ancient Egyptians, and they were looking at the same stars and navigating.
That's actually weird that you went back to the ancient Egyptians, because one of the reasons we know about the precession is that we look at observations from, like, ancient Egyptian astronomers, or the closest equivalent, and that's one of the ways they went, huh, this is different.
The same.
So he's just lying. He's just lying.
Same way we do today. So just by what we observe and see, we are not a spinning ball in outer space and then flying through an endless space. That's just nonsense.
Well, let me ask you a question, and we're going to get to a lot of that more in detail when we both do our debate discussions. One of the things I have a hard time with is, look, I get the government lies. One of the hard things about the flat Earth idea, what I would call a flat Earth theory, is there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are true that I believe in, right? There's no doubt about that. And so it's almost like an us and them. You guys are the few enlightened people of reality, whereas I would say, well, of course I know the election was stolen. Of course I know that vaccines are nonsense. Of course I didn't close my church. We even put up a sign that said we're a mask-free campus. We won't even allow you to wear a mask here. And so
I knew he was anti-vax, but I forgot I wasn't thinking about it because it wasn't the topic.
It's not like we're into all of the stuff, right? And so it seems like with this, us versus them football mentality that we're tackling each other over some of the same issues because, yeah, there's a lot of things that you and I agree on, but then it's like you got to keep going deeper in the conspiracies and keep going deeper, and now you can agree with me on all these things, but if you don't agree about the flat earth theory, the flat earth model and concept, well, then you don't really understand the Bible. I'm not saying you can't be saved. I don't believe you would believe that either. You don't really understand the Word. You're not really enlightened like the rest of us. But then we know, government, NASA lies, but here's the problem that I have. And probably in your presentation, you'll talk about some of those documents. I've read every one of those documents that you released.
No, not yet.
I see them.
I haven't released some of them.
Well, the ones that you have released publicly. I read all of them, so I wanted to be very thorough. But here's the issue. NASA bad, NASA bad, NASA bad. But these NASA documents that I just released tell you that NASA's telling the truth. So I don't understand the discrepancy. And I'm just being honest about that.
Well, it's simple. When these documents were top secret, meaning if you divulged the information that was in them before they were released through the Freedom of Information Act, you went to prison accused of treason, okay? So the government will hide things like, okay, the MK Ultra program. We'll use that example. The MK Ultra program was denied by our government for decades and decades and decades. Operation Paperclip, after World War II, they brought all the Nazi scientists over here, gave them immunity, and they basically started the mind control program through it's called MK Ultra, it's called Operation Artichoke, Mockingbird, right? So all of this was done, the United States government, the Canadian government was involved.
Okay, so the paperclip thing is true in regard to, like, people who were scientists in Nazi Germany being brought over and given immunity as long as they worked for the US government. That's absolutely a thing. Why are you directly trying to connect NASA to MK Ultra? That's an entirely different thing. Like, that's the CIA. Why are you connecting the CIA to NASA?
All right. All of this was kept top secret until it got leaked out.
And also, yes, a
in
failure.
the 70s. and through the church committee, and it got leaked out. And then they found the documents buried in the CIA headquarters, and they had destroyed. Matter of fact, the CIA director Alan Dulles had destroyed about 200,000 documents trying to cover it up, but they found some hidden in another office. So all the truth came out. So what I'm saying is the truth came out in the 70s, and finally, actually, President Bill Clinton actually apologized because experiments were done on human beings, mind control using drugs and physical abuse.
Yes, and nothing came of it because there were no practical applications for fucking people up like that.
Abuse and sexual abuse, and sometimes against people's will without their knowledge, and some people died in those experiments that the CIA was doing. Now, you could look back and go back then and say, oh,
I don't know about the death thing.
It's a conspiracy, and the government, the government covered it up. But when those documents come out that were kept secret, and we know, okay, they were discussing this between them, and they have to do that. And it's the same way with NASA, and it's the same way with our other government agencies and military. They don't tell us everything, what they actually do. And then the Freedom of Information Act, I'm going to tell you this, I believe the Freedom of Information Act is Jesus made them do it, because Jesus said everything done in secret and spoken in secret is going to be shouted from the rooftop.
What?
And I actually believe it's a rule that God has made them start revealing things to us. And so that's easy to determine. I look at a document that's
the
top
Freedom of
secret.
Information Act was a law that was passed
for years and years and years.
God
and decades,
isn't
and
in the
finally now it's
legislature.
released. Oh, I can go, I see why they were hiding it.
Gotcha. All right. I know you're going to talk a little bit about those documents, and so let me just kind of move on to another question, because I'm really anxious to get you hooked up and let you start doing your actual presentation.
Peeplord says, I did some research about this on the CIA declassification section of their website, and I think I found a specific bit of evidence he's referencing. That's a...
and make
I get it.
Sure the guys have the cord and the computer and all of that ready. Okay, the age-old question is, why don't you guys still have an actual map? Why do you have a model but not a scaled map?
Nobody does. Do you know that all of our maps are wrong? Every single one of them.
Well, we have a scale, and you can tell me that this is 200 miles apart from certain towns, and I can look at the scale on a regular map, and I can drive it, and it's exactly 200 miles apart.
The Gleason map works really well. And again, you have to know how to use a map. Maps have different scales and different things that you look at. But bottom line is that all maps are wrong. The projection map, one of the Mercator...
Okay, they're wrong in the sense that they don't give a complete picture, but they are not wrong in that they are completely inaccurate for their purposes. Some maps are good for determining distance between objects, or distance between locations, rather. Some are good for determining the angle, directional difference between different places. Some are good for showing the size relative to one another, like countries and stuff. Maps are just that. They're projections. But the thing is, there is no flat Earth projection that tells us anything. Because there's no flat Earth, you're not doing anything. You've not made any sort of projection because it's not a real thing.
Maps show Iceland like bigger than Africa, and that's not true. So what I'm saying is, nobody has a true, accurate, to the perfect map. That's just a fact. Not your side, not my side. We're still working on it.
But we can travel based off our model and based off our map and get exactly where we...
I can't believe I have to agree with Greg Locke here. Jesus Christ.
...want to get.
Did he just want to win a debate for once, so he had to find a flat earther?
But you can't do that on the model of the flat Earth.
No, it's not true.
And even Africa's like 3,000 miles wider than it's supposed to be, because it's looking down on a spherical Earth, and it's just been flattened out.
It's absolutely not true.
That is 100% true.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. In fact, navigation, and I have this in my book, navigation is called the Great Circle navigation, not the Great Sphere navigation. All right, so everything...
Yeah, but every pilot would tell you that's an actual commercial airline pilot.
Where's my Army pilot? Where's my Army pilot?
Yeah.
Stand up, Army pilot.
Oh, God, it's getting rowdy. It's getting rowdy.
Where are you?
Okay, see.
There he is. So what I'm saying is, not every pilot will tell you that. I have a friend, good dear friend.
Commercial airline pilots will tell you that.
A commercial pilot will tell you.
Yes.
I have multiple. In fact,
because I don't want to get on a plane of a guy
Yeah, you travel in great circles because you're trying to travel in a line. On a sphere, the only way to travel in a straight line is by making great circles. So him referencing that is accidentally admitting that the world is round, but it says flat circles, so in his head, flat circles? That must mean the Earth is flat. No, that's what you call the arcs. Have you ever seen a flight path that looks like it's going in a curve? That's what that is. Because over a sphere, that's what it looks like on a flat surface when you're going around a sphere in a straight line. He doesn't know what he's doing.
That doesn't know about the rotation of the Earth because I'll end up in the wrong place. That's the entire idea
because
of flight.
This is what, okay, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. All right, if you believe the Earth is spinning, and if you believe in the Coriolis effect, that you have to.
I definitely believe in the Coriolis effect.
It's not even in the SEAL manual, and I have a SEAL friend. So, what I'm going to tell you right now is that
Jamie, thanks for 27 months. Says third sub-anniversary. Ooh, this sub baby's name is going to be Montana James. Montana James.
If that was happening, you could not land a plane on a north-south runway, because if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and an airplane is flying at 500 miles an hour, and you have to count in velocity and you have to figure all that in, they could not land on a north-south runway. It's impossible. Gyroscopes in planes tell the pilot that they're flying.
H-Bird said, nuh-uh, the greatest of intellectual statements.
Flat and level. And many, many pilots have come out. An F-16 pilot's come out and a whistleblower and said, it's flat, he knows it. Here's another thing. You see a F-16, I've been down in Pensacola where you see the Blue Angels do their thing. They will fly 50 feet off of the water, breaking the sound.
I forgot to mention this, but in Twitch, I think I lowered the bits minimum from 50 to 40. Let me know if that worked. I don't know if it did. But okay. I think I changed that the other day. I don't remember if I actually did it or not, or if I just thought I did. Cassifel with 22 months says 22 months, my lord, 22 months. How we doing that? How we doing this, my lord, 22 months. It's good to see you, Cassifel. I know, we still gotta reschedule our thing. God damn. We're gonna do a thing. I haven't forgotten about you.
That means that they are moving over 700 miles an hour, right? They break the sound barrier. Sometimes they're flying at Mach 2 in a straight line. Now, if they're flying that fast and the Earth's curving, and most people don't on your side do not know how much the Earth curves. They don't even know the formula.
Ultimate Undying with 40 bits says testing. Woo. Yep, there you go. It works.
But it's 8 inches per mile squared. Now,
no, it's not. That's an incorrect. If you ever see a flat earther say that, they're wrong. It's not that. That is not the formula for Earth curvature. That's for a parabola. Parabolas are much steeper curved. So this gives them the impression that you should be seeing a curve much more often or more quickly or more dramatically than you actually do. That's intentional. It gives them wrong numbers so they can go, look at how ridiculous this is. But the problem is the actual formula they're using is incorrect from the start, so they're the ones with the wrong numbers. Stromboli says literally the last of multiple.
We're smoking.
Oh god, what is this?
Filtered crack, you stupid piece of shit.
What a crazy old man. New episodes of Dracula Flow are airing weekends at 11 p.m. only on Toonami.
Alright, that was an interesting choice to use your bits on.
Now, if you do that going that fast, you're going to have to be nosing the plane down. In fact, if you're going 500 miles an hour, you're going to be nosing the plane down like 2,000 feet, which is
incorrect.
Over
your math
half a
is
mile
wrong.
Every few minutes, right? If you're flying at Mach 2, it's incredible. They would have to be nosing the plane down continually, and pilots will tell you that they never nose their plane down to follow the curvature of the Earth. That is a...
They don't have to, because with the actual curvature of the Earth, it's incredibly slight. You would know that if you knew the actual formula. Also, what a plane is trying to do typically, it wouldn't be categorized as that, but as you keep your plane flying steadily, it will just inherently follow the curve over long periods of time and distance. Because that's what it's doing, is it'll even out if it feels like, based on the instruments, that it's tipping upward, which is what it would look like if you actually were going fast enough that the curve would matter. But it would just dip the nose down slightly and keep you even.
Fact.
They don't have to have their nose.
Steve with the Q, thanks for 38 months.
Down to follow the curvature of the Earth. They fly at altitude, and altitude takes care of the curvature of the Earth. That's the entire point of a pilot. That's how he keeps the plane in the air. to say that you got to nose down and go around the Earth
Let me explain something to you
ridiculous.
about aerodynamics. Aerodynamics will tell you right now you cannot fly a plane at Mach 2. You cannot fly a plane in any curve. I don't care if it's this way, or this way. They do not fly. They will come apart. That's why the SR-71, there was one time, it just came to pieces. It had to fly straight and level, or it would just burn up and tear apart. So, no, I'm sorry. They don't nose a plane down.
So you've never seen a plane curve? You've never seen a plane do flips, go up, go down, barrel roll?
No, what you're talking about is you're going somewhere else with this. That's different.
I am confused by what he's trying to say here. He's trying to say that, like, you know, if a plane is going fast enough, yeah, it would break apart, but, like, we're talking about typical planes, not a fighter jet going, like, Mach 5.
When I'm talking a plane flying at Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3, they're not nosing the plane down.
But I don't travel to go preach at Mach 1, Mach 2. I'm talking about real people understanding the
Demibird says, actually, he had a sermon where he brought up believing in the earth not being flat and got flack for it from his fellow conspiracy freaks / deliverance ministers. It's low-key hilarious. He actually has to fight his new besties about basic science, and they all believe mental illness is literally demons. It's like the other day when we watched, Bob Larson, trying to tell his audience not to do sun gazing. And he had to couch it in, like, you'll get demons from sun gazing, instead of being able to just say, like, hey, don't look at the sun, that's bad for you. H-Bird says, I'm both a physicist and a licensed pilot, and I'm pretty sure this counts as torture. You're welcome.
Science behind this, not just speculations of being able to say, well, a lot of pilots have come out. Well, I would like to see one of them. Because
they're here. They got one here.
They're not here. He just said he wasn't a military pilot. Listen, these are the people.
That guy right there. Hold on now. The white shirt guy.
Commercial airline pilot.
Army pilot.
Commercial airline pilot.
What difference does it make?
Because the people that want to talk are helicopter pilots, are the only flat earthers I've ever met, and I've only met 3 of them, which is fine. And then people that fly small planes for small distances. Because if you're going to get in an airplane, and I know you guys hate the Southern Hemisphere and all that kind of stuff, I'm telling you.
I know you guys hate the Southern Hemisphere. God damn it.
There is no...
He's actually making me laugh, and it's bad because he's such a terrible guy.
No possible way to make it from point A to point B without curvature and rotation.
Jack, thank you for raiding. Hello, everyone. Welcome, raiders. I am Hannah. I am a leftist variety streamer. Today we are looking at Greg Locke, the hate preacher, quote-unquote, debating a flat earth preacher, and they're debating about flat earth. It's very strange. How's everyone doing? Go check out Riverboat Jack if you haven't. Riverboat Jack is just great. We raid all the time, so I'm sure you're already followed, but if not, go check her out. I do all sorts of different stuff. Primary theme is Tinfoil, conspiracy theory debunkings, talking about why people believe conspiracy theories, the commonalities between conspiracy theories, the dynamics of them and what makes people believe them, and it's just kind of interesting. It pervades so much of politics and personal life with so many people believing really out there things, so it can help to kind of understand why. So if that sounds interesting, stick around, maybe give me a follow. We have a good time.
Of the earth. It
is Stitch on my shirt. It is. Thank you.
Possibility. Now, I know your side does not believe in that, but to say that you guys have professional surveyors that survey, I'm not talking about little bitty areas.
Hold on.
Or pilots.
Okay, let me bring this up. Since you bring up surveyors, U.S. Geological Survey is very clear that they don't even count curvature over 100 square miles. Well, you know what? That's about foolish, because either they don't know. They count it as flat over 100 square miles. They count the earth as flat. Do you know how much?
Did you just admit that they don't count it as flat above that much? Because I kind of feel like by process of elimination here, if you just said they don't count it under that much, that means that they do count it above that much, right? That implies that you're wrong. It's weird that the white spaces in your argument kind of betray the point you're trying to make.
How much curvature is at 100 miles supposed to be there?
Well, we have a surveyor in the room tonight.
Hold on. I'm asking you.
That's dishonest. This is the first time, and this is going to be weird, Raiders, because, like, Greg Locke's a huge piece of shit. he's a terrible, awful person, but unfortunately in this discussion, one of them's a flat earther and one of them's not. And Greg is the one who is not. So he is saying things here that are true, even if they're coming from a big piece of shit. Why would you want to talk to someone who doesn't know about surveying if you have someone who is a surveyor in the audience? The only reason you would want to do that is because you know it would be devastating to what you want to say about the topic.
Do you know how much curvature of the Earth is supposed to be there in 100 miles?
Well, if you use the parabolic approximation, which is the zetetic astronomy, which is nonsense, because that's a curve as an arch. It would look like the world would look like the St. Louis Arch.
No, that is not it. Every scientist, I have a PhD in physics here with me that's highly sought after across the world by Google and NIH and everything else. She will tell you that if you're going to have a ball that's 24,901 miles in circumference, and it's a perfect sphere, right? You have a sphere.
It's not a perfect sphere. To be clear, the Earth is not a perfect sphere.
And that's what NASA shows us is a perfect sphere. Though Neil deGrasse Tyson says it's a pear shape.
It's an oblate spheroid
thing, right? But here we go. Here we go. If you have a sphere,
it's not a perfect sphere, but I get it. Go ahead.
Well, that's the pictures they give us, so somebody's wrong. But here's the thing: if it's
why ball no perfect sphere if in picture looks perfect? Me no understand. Picture's hard.
Curving, if it's a sphere, 24,901 miles, the math does not lie. It is 8 inches per mile squared at the equator.
It's not. Again, if you just came in from the raid, the 8 inches per mile squared number he's using is incorrect. It's a thing flat earthers read because it came out of a book called Zetetic Astronomy, which was written by a flat earther in the early 20th century. And he is using the incorrect formula for the curvature of the Earth. That is the formula for the curvature of a parabola, and the Earth's curve is not parabolic.
And
Marcus Drake says the National Institute of Health wasn't wants a physicist? I mean, I'm sure some works there, but what a weird flex. That was weird. I didn't even notice that.
Actually, if you go up the ball, going east and west, it actually increases to 9 1/4, 9 1/2. It actually, the curve gets worse. So no, these are things we can calculate, and they're not arguing. I have engineers and PhDs in physics who will explain to you the math if you need it explained to you. But I don't know where you're coming from with that crazy stuff. The Earth, if it is the ball,
it comes right out of the Zetetic Astronomy book from Samuel Robotham.
No, it doesn't. I've never even read his book.
Okay.
That's still where it comes from. That's the source.
No, this math is very clear. It's as clear as it gets. Where's my PhD in physics? Please stand. What's
the Ukrainian? Thank you. That's nice of you to say. And welcome.
The square.
I'm gonna just ask you to raise your hand.
Is an approximation.
Does the Earth, if it's a sphere curving 24,901 miles in circumference, is that an average of 8 inches per mile squared? Yes.
But that's not the point. The formula itself is wrong. So sure, that might be the answer to the math problem you gave her, but the problem you used is the incorrect one to find the answer you're looking for. This is a deceptive thing about conspiracy theories. A lot of the time it can be a sleight of hand. They'll do something over here that's correct, like the fact that that is the answer to that math problem, at least I'm going to assume it is, while you are ignoring or not seeing the fact that that's not the right math to use in the first place. Keep an eye out for stuff like that.
Right, but the square is an approximation, yes or no?
No.
Absolutely.
And it's actually 7.9 inches. It's accurate. It's very accurate. So, like I said, that's a PhD in physics. Now, if you want to go
okay, what does that have to do with anything? You're not asking a question about physics. You're asking a question about the shape of the Earth. You gave her a math problem, which she could certainly answer, but the math problem did not directly relate to the actual question because that's not how you measure the curvature of the Earth over long distances.
She does experiments at Tuskegee University in Alabama, and like I said, she knows what she's talking about. So that's why I brought these people, because we're not going to go down these crazy roads. I mean, math is math.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and you are using it incorrectly. You're using the wrong math to determine the answer to the question you are asking.
And the math is not in your favor. And so, I mean, yeah, anybody could bring testimonies, anybody can bring doctors, PhDs, that's fine. But the squared is an approximation. It's a parabolic approximation for an arch. That's 100% the facts.
Nope.
That's 100% true.
No. Just the no. No.
It's not.
It is.
It is not. If you draw a circle, you can figure out how much it's curving. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, parabolic approximation, it is an approximation, but the question still has to be answered regardless of how off our maps are, which we can navigate very well with them. Why is there no real map for the model of the flat Earth?
Why is there no curvature when we go out with high zoom cameras?
That's not what I asked.
No, I can ask whatever I want to ask. Look.
This is awful. The world that these people want horrifies me. The kind of thing where this is what intellectual debate looks like. They're just like, woo! It's like a Twitch debate in real life. It's a nightmare. Just nonsense going back and forth and people wooing for their team.
I don't agree with you about that.
I know. I just want an answer.
Keeplord says, I'm in the Navy and back on 2017 I went on leave for a month. I worked in quality assurance at the time, which leads extremely pedantic conversations. When I got back, I asked what shape the Earth was. I thought it was going to be sphere versus oblate spheroid. Nope, one of the guys spent the month convincing a submariner that the Earth was flat. He never let it go, and we ripped on him for a year till he transferred. Some brains are so fragile.
Answer to the question. Is there an actual map that can be produced like we have a map? We don't have a model. We have a map and an entire model that can be made predictions off of.
I've already answered the question.
There are no predictions
I'm not answering it again.
that can be made from a flat Earth model.
All the maps are wrong. All the maps
are wrong.
All the maps are wrong.
All the maps are wrong, and they know it.
So then why isn't...
That's how maps work. That's how projections work.
Your map wrong when you say Antarctica encircles the entire disk and the North Pole is right in the middle. Why isn't your map wrong, but our map is wrong, but the model proves that all the predictions for our map are 1,000% correct?
They're not. The early, listen, you got to understand that there are people, that's why they don't.
I do understand. That's why I'm asking you the question.
You interrupted me. I tell you what, I'm not going to do this interruption thing, all right? I'm not.
Hydrate.
So we can just go to a presentation if we're going to do this. I'm not doing it.
Ooh, I need to go get some water. Hydrate. H-Beard says, oh my god, we can make long wraparound skirts with maps of the Earth on them. We can call it Mapsaron.
I just want you to answer the question.
No, I'm not doing it.
Why not?
I'm not going to do this interrupt because I start giving an answer, you interrupt me.
No. Answer the question.
I'm not doing it.
I'll give you 30 seconds of silence. Why do you not have a map or a model that can make predictions?
Why? We do. We do. And I'm going to tell you, it's been very accurate. The astrolabe is another instrument that's proved this. It's based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. The astrolabe, that's how they navigated seas long before we got to this nonsense, okay, about their spinning ball thing. It's always been based on, even the compass itself is based on a flat.
No, it is not. What are you talking about?
Circular Earth. No,
it's not. Do you think that because the compass itself is flat-ish? Oh, God. Cashel Gladio says, remember when you guys reviewed Let There Be Light and you pointed out how cartoonishly stupid the debate at the start of that movie was? This is that shit. Or, that's this shit. Very much so. And Fennec Kagami says, Hannah, you did successfully lower the bits. Also, in other news today, I made an, in hindsight, obvious observation. Anyone notice how a majority of the pro-AI art people are the same people who say wokeness is ruining art and culture? It's almost like those people don't know or care about those things.
It doesn't work. If you're down here, it's not pointing through the ball. So
no, because it's aligning itself with the magnetic field of the Earth. isn't supposed to be pointing through it.
What I'm saying is that bottom line, that is not even the argument. The argument is not there. We know there's discrepancies in the maps, and the early explorers who went into the Arctic region, who used the instruments that they had based on a sphere, they would always find themselves out of reckoning, they said, sometimes extreme out of reckoning when they went there. I document all this, Captain Ross and all these others. I document captain after captain after captain who, before they had to lie and before there was NASA, that when you go into the southern part, the southern hemisphere, if that's what you want to call it, when you go there, that they are out of reckoning trying to base their navigation on a sphere. That's documented history.
No.
Well, I mean, you can make a dead man say anything, so it's easy to talk about what used to happen back then. We have more technology now than the world's ever imagined, and it's growing every day. So why can't you do those same things now? Why do you always have to talk about these people that used to try to do this? Did you know right now there's between 1,000 and 5,000 people on the continent of Antarctica? And people are like, well, NASA's there, and there's these, gunny penguins that are keeping people from getting it. It's this fantastical nonsense where people have flown over it, taken pictures, people have all of these people have circumnavigated Antarctica. You can buy a cruise ticket. You can buy a cruise ticket and go to Antarctica. And here's what's interesting. In 2019, the Flat Earth folks were going to take a cruise to Antarctica to prove their thoughts. Nothing ever came of it.
Here, let me explain that to you.
You can fly there today.
No, you can, fly there and see the coastline. That's about all you can do, a little bit of the coastline.
Absolutely not.
Oh, yes. And if you want to go there and stay, you have to have permission from a government. Have you ever seen the amount of stuff you have to fill out to go through there?
Yes.
And also, they're not going to let you go on an expedition inland just as a...
People do that, though. People have done that. People have done world records and things where they go across the entire continent. You would probably need to prove that you're competent, because again, it's a desolate wasteland. They don't want to spend time and money coming to rescue you when you decide to wander into an endless fucking ice desert. There's nothing for you to see. It's just endless death and cold. Steve with the Q says, Greg Locke bringing the heat. Anyone can bring testimonies. You can make a dead man say anything. Care to apply that to anything else? Greg? That's what's wild. Greg's full of shit about the things he professes, because he can, he's clearly capable of making arguments, even if it is for something as dumb as Flat Earth. Overthought says, Magellan didn't get domed in the Philippines for some dude to say the world is flat, or maybe he did.
Just as me or you, they're not going to let that happen. And here's another thing. If this would be easy to prove, but they hide this from us too. All we'd have to prove is go to Antarctica. Let me and you go to Antarctica, spend a week there in the summer, and let's see if the sun does a 360-degree circle all the way around us. If so, it's a ball. But if the sun comes in this way and then leaves that way, then it's not. It is what we say it is.
You literally do already have, you go on the internet and see, what's the word I'm thinking of? Time-lapse videos of in the Arctic where it does that, the sun just going around and around and around and around and around. Doesn't ever set, just round and round and round. Maybe dips a little bit. You can go see that. That's a thing.
And they have webcam videos, right? At Antarctica, and there'll be a flagpole sitting there. And so if the sun's coming in this way, you should have a shadow here, and then it comes in, and it should be here, and then it comes over here, and then it should just be back here. What they do is they never let you see 24 hours a day. They never let you. They cut the tape, they edit it, and Jaron of Jaronism actually has
the tape.
Emails from them asking, why are you cutting the video? And they give him these stupid explanations like, oh.
HBread says you can actually do that. And there's a link. South Pole flights. Ooh. Fly to the South Pole, where all 360 lines of longitude meet, and in a few steps you can walk around the world. History comes alive as you stand at 90 degrees south, the ultimate goal of polar explorers, Amundsen and Scott. Imagine how it felt to head out across. Yeah, but That's devastating to their case, so they can't do that. Also, I've heard them say they just think they fly you somewhere random, so. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, funny thing, when I went to Antarctica in the summer, the sun did exactly that. It sort of rolls up and down around the sky like a marble in a bowl. That's kind of cool.
Well, it's too cold. We can't run it for 24 hours. We can run it for 16 to 18 hours. We can't run it for 24 hours.
So all the footage is doctored. Is that what you're saying?
Doctored, and they admit it's doctored.
So then why can't we go and just see it for ourselves?
Well, let's just see if they'll let us.
Oh, they will let us. I've already checked into it.
Right.
They'll absolutely let us.
Let's go.
They will absolutely let us. And not only will they absolutely let us, I've got a cattle rancher in Texas that will pay for the entire trip.
Let's do it.
We'll fly right to...
Okay, I'm on board. You can fly Greg Locke and this flat earther to the South Pole, and then that's the end of the plan. Logarth says, there are flat earthers all around the world. Skifazoa says, wow, you really do just grab everything, don't you, Hannah? Hey, sometimes. The stuff in that was actually stuff that was in my ship that was randomly generated, and when I changed ships, it moved it to the cargo bay on the new ship.
Antarctica.
We stay 1 week inland. They're going to let us stay 1 week inland.
Oh, absolutely. There's people...
You're going to spend a week in the fucking Antarctic? Where? Okay, good luck.
Inland right now.
Well, yeah, they all work for different governments of the world.
Nah, you can't. You don't get to use the governments of the world. There's a lot of people.
Antarctica Treaty, man. Antarctica Treaty.
Literally, Greg Locke says that stuff about his anti-vax stuff is the governments of the world are like working for Satan, etc. So what do you mean?
Read it.
You know what? I did. Every line of it. And none of it has anything to do with militarization of the area. It even says peaceful expedition. There are people that live in Antarctica right now.
One guy tried to go there by himself, and he was seized and arrested and put in jail. All right? So don't tell me that. You can't just decide.
You expect me to change my entire theology over one man that got turned away?
Go ahead. I'll tell you what.
That's crazy train.
Why don't you try?
Oh, I will.
Go there by yourself.
Absolutely.
All right.
Wow. No. You agreed to go with me.
Without government approval.
You agreed to go with me.
Go over there without filling out the forms and see what happens.
Why would I go without filling out the forms when I can plainly fill out the forms, buy a ticket, and go, and they will let me in?
Sorry, Finikagami. Finikagami said... somewhere, if I can find it. Oh, joke's on you, Flurfs. The compass I use is a log post. Their needle's more in a 3D space. Checkmate. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. And Logarth says, one trip to Walmart's camping section later, and they're all set to go on a week-long Antarctic expedition. Problem solves itself.
All I say is don't talk about it until it's done. You hadn't proved a thing.
It's been done.
No.
Over and over and over.
Look,
and being done right now.
If you hadn't been there, then you're just taking the word of people. You hadn't been there. Just like you taking the word of people about space. You hadn't been in space, so you don't know it's real. You just
technically we're in space right now.
Have faith in people that are telling you a story.
Okay.
I mean, we play that game all day long.
So there's nothing I can believe about anything because I've not done it. I've not been there.
If you,
says the creationist,
you can't witness it with your own eyes, you have to be able to question it.
That's ridiculous because the Bible says God is a spirit and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And if you deny the reality because you can't see God, therefore you don't worship God, that's heresy, and we're not even on the same Christian page.
Goddamn.
Look at this.
What do you mean, look at this? Your people are just...
We're talking about the physical world, and then you start talking about God. That's not what we're talking about.
There is no physical world without God.
The physical world is what
This is the dumbest argument.
we're talking about. We're not talking
We are talking about the physical world. The heavens declare the glory of God.
Have you been to outer space?
I don't have to go to outer space. I've got a telescope. I can look at it.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Is this what we're doing? I'm going to tell you, Greg, I'm not doing this.
Because you have no answers.
I have given you plenty of answers. Stop. Hold on. We're stopping right now. Hold on a second. I didn't come here to have an argument, okay? I came here to have a debate where we look at the scriptures. So
I didn't come here to have an argument. I came here to have a more formally structured argument.
I'm gonna look at the scriptures.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
We got to set the tone before we look at the scriptures, because we got to get through all this crazy train nonsense so we can understand what the Bible
Crazy
actually
train
says.
Nonsense. All right, we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour. We're flying at 66,000 miles an hour.
67.
They change it regularly.
No, they
500,000 miles an hour is through your space that you believe in, and yet our
listen,
stars never change.
I
Our
know the
version of
Earth
star-
rotates one time a day, 1,000 miles. 1,000
Our
miles an
stars-
hour. And I believe in the 66. I don't know about all this, the whole galaxies. If there are people in this room that believe the Earth is stationary, but want to convince me of upward acceleration instead of gravity.
That's not true. Nobody believes that.
Sure
Nobody
they do.
believes that I know.
Gentlemen, you can't argue in here. This is
Nobody believes in upward acceleration in the form of misplaced
No.
gravity.
Do you hear it? No, we don't. No.
That's actually funny. What he did there was there's a group called the Flat Earth Society that I'm pretty sure were started satirically. Either way, it's far from a popular position amongst flat earthers. So he took something that he thought a bunch of flat earthers believe, when in reality it's not something most believe, and assumed they did, and that's why he's getting that response.
That's the Flat Earth Society. They're controlled opposition. They believe a bunch of nonsense like a pancake.
So the Flat Earth
Society.
so
that
y'all
is
don't,
not what we believe.
Okay, so y'all don't get along with the Flat Earth Society.
No.
They're, what do you call them, shields?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, okay, look, this is what I have a hard time with. There are like 9 different models or beliefs about flat Earth. And I don't understand. Who's right, who's wrong? Why is Flat Earth Society wrong? But why are you guys correct? You see what I'm saying? That's what I don't understand. And so just shouting things is not going to help. The reason people can't
He's such a hypocrite.
fathom this is because there's so many different belief systems about it, whereas we have one model that works.
Yeah, because you've been brainwashed with it since you were born. That's why you have one model. That's what they wanted you to believe. But listen, we can go back. We can go back to the scientists who believed, the people that y'all look to for this, that created this.
I don't look to any of them.
Copernicus and all them. Look, they were thinking the sun was 3 million miles away. Then it was 12 million miles away. Now it's 93 million miles away. So don't tell me about
The Earth has an elliptical orbit, so it changes. Logarth says, wow, 9 different belief systems for Flat Earth. What else is a whole bunch of different belief systems that all argue about who's right? Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
You guys have been working on this
That's
thing.
because there's technological advancements across the ages.
But again,
Amit Gardner says, shields, as you call them.
It's been
Hey, Moran, how's it going?
changing all the time, and I don't believe the sun's 93 million miles away at all.
I understand that.
In fact, there's evidence to prove that it's not.
The distance changes slightly, but that's the average.
So what I'm getting at is we can do, like I said, we can do this little argument right here all day long. But I didn't come to argue like this. I mean, maybe you want to make a show out of it, but I'm not here to argue like.
I just want to answer the questions that I don't have the answers to, that I'm trying to figure out.
Well,
They're very simple questions. Very.
No. You're not going to play. Look, here's what you're doing. You're playing this little game here with me. You don't have an answer. You don't have an answer for
because I'm not a flat earther.
Hold on. I'm talking about your model. You do not have an answer as to why we've been flying through this ever-expanding universe at 500 million.
I do have an answer.
Hold on. And the stars never change in our view, ever.
That's not true.
That is true. That is true because I've been looking at it for a long time. It is true.
Well, go to the southern hemisphere.
It does change. It happens over a longer period than human beings, but also, the things look very similar because the stars that you see are the closest ones to us. They are also in the Milky Way. They're like moving with us, along with us in the arm of the Milky Way that we're in.
Hemisphere and look at the same ones.
Yeah, I've looked at it. I know.
You've been in the southern hemisphere?
Yes, I have.
And you've looked up? Can you see Polaris from the southern hemisphere?
Sometimes you can. It depends.
You never can.
No, you can't.
You never can.
To a certain degree south, you can. But here's the thing. In our model...
So far south that you're going north again? Is that how far south you mean?
Model. I believe, and we believe, that both the sun and the moon are much smaller and much lower and closer to the Earth, as well as the stars.
Same size.
We don't. Yeah, we believe they're the same size, and we don't believe the stars are some distant galaxies that are trillions of miles away.
Right.
We believe the stars are much closer. So when things are smaller and closer, when you move away from them, you don't get to see them because of perspective. It's anything like I've got a video I'll show you in a minute where a guy puts his camera on the ground on a flat football field, and he starts walking away from it. Well, he starts walking away from it, his feet disappear first. And then he gets up to his knees, and then up to his waist. And then, by the time he's at the end of the football field, he can squat down, you can't see him. He hadn't left the flat football field, right? It's a matter of perspective. And so what
Creepy Doll on the Wall with 29 months says, "Hey Hannah, hope you're doing well tonight." I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
happens is, like, the sun doesn't go down. It doesn't go around a curve. It just simply gets too far away for us to see because it's lower and smaller, and it gets further away.
No. Alright. I think I'm done with these guys. At this point, they're just going over the same flat earth shit, and they're about to get into their individual presentations anyway. So let's take a look at another conspiracy video, shall we?
I was watching one of KJ's most recent uploads.
Oof, that audio's rough.
I want you to get together.
This is that same guy who thinks that clowns are based on demons, basically.
Well, in the truther culture that I'm a part of, and obviously yourself, there is this idea of, you awaken, you wake up first before you start going down the rabbit holes of learning about the nature of reality. And a lot of people fall into this concept, that there's all knowledge is being revealed kind of now in this time. And it seems like there's like this play going on where it's kind of like the good occultists are revealing the truth against the bad occultists.
Wait, he thinks there are good occultists now?
It's that kind of Gnostic way of thinking about things. Really, really common, and I kind of see it everywhere. And this whole great awakening thing, the act as though a waking up will save you. And that's not the case. That's kind of, again, you're falling into the same false doctrine and idea. It's kind of like, you've got the false light of Lucifer basically fighting against the evil darkness of Satan. It's kind of this interplay of good versus evil. Again, it's the same principle. The truth of the matter is, you can only be saved through Jesus Christ. There's no great awakening that will save you. Knowledge will not save you. And that's kind of...
I do always find the New Age, tinfoil people versus the Christian tinfoil people. I'm surprised it doesn't come up more often, because they share a lot of the same spaces these days. You'd think it'd be more of a fight between the two.
And the message Christians keep trying to say over and over again. But this you get these people who are awake, and then you get people who are actually saved. There's two, then they are not the same thing. They often get conflated with one another as well. You see a lot of Christians as well who backslide into this way of thinking when, I don't know if they lose their salvation, probably not. I don't know if it's once saved, always saved, but there's got to be something to be said for turning your back on that promise, that gift, to then go seek knowledge instead. There's got to be something about that, which I assume the enemy would enjoy you doing. That's kind of the goal, to funnel you down that path.
Because once they create that wedge in faith, they've got you. They don't care whether you fully convert or not.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
They're just there to destroy us.
Absolutely.
Again,
I had so many
conspiratorial belief in a consummate enemy, an enemy that is always forever trying to stop you. Nothing you ever do will make them stop coming after you. They're just always there. It's interesting.
Things I wanted to say, but as the
Fennikigami says, is further proof that conservatives and conspiracy theorists for their own positive reinforcement. As further proof that conservatives and conspiracy theorists, for their own positive reinforcement of their worldviews, Blue checks are molding over the fact that Elon's new AI Grok is based and not racist and makes fun of conspiracy theories. They've been spending their time since its launch trying to teach it to be bigoted. It also takes jabs at Elon over the Emerald Mine. I saw that.
These things go, they slip your mind because more ideas just come in and go. But it's a fascinating subject to talk. I could talk about it for hours. Just the state of the truth movement and this insidious Gnosticism that is just it's really gripping people right now, Gary. Like people crave knowledge more than ever now. I think, and I can hardly blame them in a sense because of just how much we've been lied to. And there is kind of a revealing of all things going on, but I would say it's extremely orchestrated, and there are paths that have been created for you to go down by these people. And you need to not fall into this Gnostic way of thinking is kind of my message. I don't know if you want to have any closing thoughts yourself. We've hit the 2-hour mark now, so maybe it might be a good time to wrap this up slowly.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts.
And tell people is that I'm not necessarily here to convert you to Christianity, although I'd like you to choose that. What I would do is maybe today we've planted some seeds. But what I would want everybody to do, Christian or otherwise, is find out why you believe what you believe and choose. Because a non-choice is still a choice. And what they've told you in so-called secularism or agnostics, or if you don't make that choice, you're not part of either side, but you are, because you're either with God or not, or you're either with Satan or not. There's the two sides, and you have to learn for yourself as to what you believe, and then be comfortable with that. I would look for more in that pursuit was what makes more sense in the world. And why are they always lying to us?
Absolutely.
And that everything that is promised that leads to utopia only leads to destruction. And we've seen that throughout history, and we're going to see that again. That they don't have humankind's interest at heart. They have their spurious spark, their spark of the divine, of the Nephilim and the Rephaim, as they like to say in mind.
Someday I'm going to watch just enough. Someday I'm going to watch just enough of this stuff that it breaks my brain, and I'm no longer going to be able to talk to normal people.
Together.
Okay. So do you mess around with the Tartaria mud flood theory? Like, do you think these old societies were actually of high technology, comparable or in access to ours? Or?
It's a deep
Would this conspiracy theory be as popular as it is today if it weren't for Ubisoft and the way that they wrote the Assassin's Creed series? There's no way to test that claim, so I'm gonna say definitely that's a direct cause. Because I can't be falsified. Take that.
Subject, isn't it? That one, that's a whole podcast in its own right. But I've touched on it a few times on my channel. I've leaned also into the millennial reign, the millennial kingdom theory as well. That it's Jesus has already come and reigned for 1,000 years, like he said he would. And what we call Tartaria is a cover-up for when Jesus was on Earth, reigning for 1,000 years and building these advanced civilizations, basically, when he was in control in the flesh. And we obviously were living like gods at that time and had these abilities to create a beautiful, perfect, designed, in tune with nature and electricity way, That's one that's a theory, though. That is a theory. A lot of people, it's called Preterism. It's based on the idea that prophecy has already come and passed, and we're actually living in Revelations 20 in the script. Because a lot of Christians are sat around waiting for Jesus to return. This argument says he's already returned. It happened. Not long after he said it would. Not long after he died and was resurrected in 70 AD. That's when it happened. Okay.
70 AD?
That was
Where are you getting the 70 AD from?
Year reign has already come and gone, and we're now living in what's called...
Is he saying 70 AD because that's around the time they think the first, gospel was actually written down, as opposed to just oral tradition? I can't figure out otherwise why it would be, that year.
Satan's little season. So this is the popular theory that's going around Christian circles to explain the Tartarian thing. Again, I'm open to it all. I'll never discount anything, but it really is one of those shelf of wonder topics. Because how am I supposed to know? But something happened clearly. Like, so I think some of these buildings are extremely suspect, and obviously the mud flood thing is very apparent. There's a lot of buildings half kind of a little bit under the ground for some weird reason. You know what I mean?
The Tartaria thing has gotten surprisingly popular in conspiracy circles in the last year or two. Don't know why. I think part of it has to do with, you know, the sort of Great Awakening or New World Order types fears. I think that this has been sort of an equal and opposite reaction to that, because a lot of them have a worldview that there's some nefarious group trying to usher in a New World Order and kind of wipe out everything we know and start anew. And I think in response to that, some of them started to find this conspiracy theory, which was already existing, but I think it filled this gap, where, oh, not only is it going to happen, it's already happened before, and our entire history was made up, and everything's a lie. It's a further breakdown of the trust in sort of authority, including historical authority. It's not good. It basically allows them to take any historical thing and just say, that's not true. Because of course they got rid of it during the mud flood. It's not good. It's a construct that basically allows them to completely dismiss any reality they don't like, and they were already really good at that.
I mean, it's something definitely happened, and then the Christian angle of the millennial reign is a really fascinating take on it all. Really is. It really is.
I'm gonna have to look into that. What about so there's a lot of literature worldwide mentioning beings kind of similar to what you're describing who live underground. And they were here before we were, right? Does that tie into Nephilim in your opinion, or do you think again that's the weird hybridization?
In the Bible, it says the Nephilim didn't show up until after humans.
Gone awry.
Because in the Bible, in Genesis, the only mention of the Nephilim is that they were the children of the mating of human women and angels. So the Nephilim were like, the verse goes something along the line of like, they were giants, men of renown, or something like that.
I would put it down to the hybridization gone awry situation. But this
H-Beard says, I enjoyed the millennial reign. It's avocado toast and escape rooms for all.
there is also this other theory which might explain this. It also explains the reptilian men, the lizard people underground, where they predominantly are. You know, did you ever see Midnight Meat Train? That really weird film, like from years ago, like a horror film. It's a film about this murderer on a train who kills people, and then and with a butcher's cleaver, like a mallet, you know, like to tenderize meat. That's his weapon of choice, right? Anyway, you think it's just a typical horror, but the spoiler alert: the catch is, it's his job to get bodies to feed the lizard people. To keep them appeased so they don't come to the surface and eat everybody. So he's not actually a bad guy. He's just the person who has the unfortunate job of doing this thing that must be done. Otherwise, the reptilians will come up and kill everybody.
I feel like there are probably alternate solutions to that, but alright. It's a movie. Fuck it.
Do you know what I mean? So it's always been in the media that there's this underground race of reptiles people.
I just noticed there's a person in the YouTube chat trying to proselytize. I'd appreciate if you didn't.
The serpent in the garden who was walking with Adam and Eve and convinced Eve to bite of the apple.
Seriously, though, if you keep going, all you're doing is spamming, trying to convert people, I'm gonna have to ban you. So knock it off.
Was this race of reptilian men was likely maybe a product of the seraphim. It was their version of creation, something, an experiment of theirs, you know what I mean? Like a made in their image, in a sense, like a reptile man thing. But God obviously created Adam in his image and chose him to be the ruler over the earth,
Christ
the tiller
brings
of
the
the
sword,
earth.
says the truth is not welcome. I understand women should remain silent. That was flattering to me. for wonderful reasons. Thank you, Christ brings a sword.
One that would be king over the earth, and he started teaching him all the things, and started teaching Adam how to name all the animals and all this, and didn't give it to the reptilian race. And this is where the rebellion is said to have kicked off. The reptilian seraphim saw this and says, why didn't God choose the reptilian man? He's clearly the more superior species. This is an affront to us and everything we've done for him. They got upset about that. So I've heard theories, that like you said, they're far older than us. It's possible they were around walking in the Garden of Eden during this ancient time.
Is that possible?
As a race of beings
probable?
Akin to humans in a way, but of a reptile nature, not mammalian, And it's like the gall that God chose a stupid monkey mammal over the superior.
YouTube does normally do bingo, but we're not doing bingo today.
A reptile to rule over the earth is a lot of where the rebellion was mustered and harnessed in the angels. I've heard that theory, but I don't know. I don't know this. But I love speculating about it. It's fascinating to get in.
Have you considered Wattpad?
Into, but I've heard that theory, so that might explain what you're talking about, that this really is an ancient race. And I think it says, the punishment of the serpent was that you will crawl on your belly and eat dust for the rest of your days. You will you will bruise the woman. There'll be enmity now between the woman's seed and your seed, so your offspring and humanity's offspring. There's going to be a war between you forever now, and you will bruise their heel and they'll crush your head. So it's kind of this, you're now cursed forever. And, to eat the dust of the earth may imply you and I'll have to live underground. It could be that.
Yeah.
No, it's a metaphor, because they're a fucking snake on the ground. They don't have legs anymore, so they gotta crawl around and their head's near the ground where the dirt is.
No, I'm just spitballing with the concepts and the words used. So maybe there is a subterranean race of lizard people who have been cursed to live under there since the Garden of Eden, and what the role they played.
I'm going to press X to doubt.
In corrupting humanity, along with the seraphim angels. Because if you're...
Did I mute the YouTube person? No, I think they just left.
Reptilian, and you've got these reptile gods above you, they're just like you, so you'll probably do what they say. And if this reptile god comes up to you and says, listen, can you see what God's done there? He's chosen Adam over you. That's not right. That's not cool. We were here first, right? So why don't you go over there and convince them to... do that thing God said not to do. It's possible that it's like a birds of a feather flock together situation. The reptilians stuck together on that one, and obviously, who knows? I'm just speculating off the stories.
No, you're good, Baha.
But it does seem like people always talk about encounters with a reptilian race of some kind, and it's in the media. They talk about them all the time. So are they Nephilim? No. They're not, from what I've seen. They're something else. They're like a...
No, Nephilim are obviously a different thing that inspired clowns. Duh.
Nephilim are specific creatures. They are fallen angels who have mixed with humans. They're a mammal-reptile hybrid. They look like clowns as well. They look psychedelic and crazy and stupid. So yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Because the reptilians are always drawn the same. Green skin, big yellow eyes. They're always the same, aren't they? There's nothing clownish about them particularly, and I think that's because they are a specific class or race of entity that does exist, probably still in physical form. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, like in the occult, right? They'll use many different symbols to explain the same thing, right? And they'll have different manifestations.
In humans, we use many different symbols to explain the same thing, and many different things can be explained by the same symbol sometimes. That's kind of how symbols work.
Stations, like Saturn.
They're symbolic.
Saturn.
We give them meaning.
Is also the check mark, is the square, is, the Eye of Sauron, And so for me, when I heard your thesis, I kind of tied it in with the whole reptilian thing. But I guess ultimately we're just speculating extreme hypotheticals here. But no, I like I like what you're saying, and the justification. Yeah, like you'll be at their heels, eating dust. That's interesting. So I see what you did there.
It's a metaphor.
When you see, let's say in the world politically, do you see a certain group being more Nephilim adjacent?
Yeah, you've got to be careful here. You've got to be careful what you say right now. I called them the multicolored collective to get around actually talking about the individuals.
Oh, some homophobia too. Shocking.
Question here. But yes, there are a certain group of people who do seem to be heavily influenced by the demonic, as shown.
Just see therapy, guys. You don't have to start coming up with fucking lizard people problems. Just go to therapy.
Through their color palette and designs and the things they choose to wear. I think.
Did you know that wearing any bright colors is inherently demonic? Jesus only wants you to wear monochrome, okay? Be boring.
The spiritual world is a reflection of the physical. That's what's understood by these ancient tribes, and dressing like the thing attracts the thing to possess you. But also, if you're also heavily possessed by something already, you will reflect that in the things you choose to wear in the physical realm. And
this is such a long trek to just say you want to judge people based on how they look. Literally just say that. Like, that's wrong and it makes you a dick. But, like, literally just say, I would like to judge people based on how they look. You don't have to go this far. You don't have to come up with some sort of metaphysical justification for being a douchebag.
And the way you make yourself up to be. And you find members of the Multicolored Collective, which, by the way, is a huge umbrella of different classes of people with different ideologies and beliefs, but they all fundamentally eat each other alive.
The Google here, I don't know if you can read it, it says SJW color hair. He Googled SJW color hair for this. That's beautiful.
In the end,
this man is stuck in Gamergate.
You know, but their flag is the multicolored flag, we'll say. You know, they like to go on huge processions in which one of the worst possible sins is their logo. So it's kind of
their
these
logo.
people, you know, do seem to manifest the spirit that's guiding them, which is the psychedelic fractaled multicolored Nephilim creatures. And you know, what is a gentleman who chooses to make himself up like a female, but something that looks incredibly clownish today.
Yeah. I always go to this picture. This is like the one drag. I mean, you could probably find other drag queen pictures of a drag queen dressed like in vaguely demonic-looking things. Why is this the go-to?
I said it in the most politically correct around the algorithm way I could possibly explain it. But yes, people know...
You're still an ass.
...what I'm talking about. People say it in the comments all the time. They look like clowns, don't they? And what they're really channeling is the Nephilim in a way. Yeah.
But what about, you know, there does seem to be on the world today a lot of evil that's not only clownifying, kids and pushing what you're discussing, but kind of trying to bring forth Old Testament prophecy and make it reality on the planet today in terms of following kind of Old Testament doomsday.
It's funny that it feels like so much of this is down to, like, completely misunderstanding the motives of other people, right? Like, I know it's deeper than that, but on a superficial level, it comes across as a communication error. They genuinely don't understand what LGBTQ people are doing or why, so in the absence of a real understanding, they fill the vacuum with nonsense, and because they're paranoid about it, it doesn't just fill with some sort of benign whatever, it fills with evil intent. It fills with demons and their fears. It's interesting. Hi, Drake.
Prophecies and such that have immense power, economic, and media and such. Do you also see that force being Nephilim? That there's groups high up politically that are serving the Nephilim, who may be in charge of banking, media, things like that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. So, the synagogue of Satan is what they're referred to as.
That's thinly veiled. Kippy says, I think it's interesting that they all have to find some kind of excuse for why they hate something. Like, why would you bother making this whole narrative about them being demonic? Who are you convincing? Are you trying to say that you're justified in hating them? Just stop and admit you hate them, for fuck's sake. Unfortunately, I think it's deeper than that. I think part of it is a genuine misunderstanding because their worldview is so different. They're having trouble how do I put this? It is so fundamentally different than their worldview that they have no way to reconcile that difference, or at least they feel they have no way to reconcile that difference, and this is how it comes across.
That we know who the master truly is. They are not the people they claim that they are. Okay, so that's the best way to summarize it very quickly and as succinctly as we can without getting too in trouble.
Oh, I just read it. Okay, well that's explicit. That's just explicit anti-Semitism.
But what I will say is there's a hierarchy behind them, which is fallen rebellious angels, their offspring, which are in the spiritual realm, and then there's secret societies that work below them as well and above them and for them. So the physical foot soldiers are the humans who are aligned with the demons who answer to their parents, the rebellious angels. There's a hierarchy, you know, there's a structure. It's a military. There's a war going on here, you know, and these characters...
This is on YouTube. Here's a link if anyone wants it. For any particular, I don't know, just cuz.
You're talking about are just physical foot soldiers to do the bidding of those above them in the spiritual realms in the physical realm. So they're just playing their part, you know. And there may be agendas to make it appear like certain prophecies are being fulfilled to then maintain the fear and foothold within certain people. But if you go off what I mentioned earlier about the millennial reign already happening and coming and going, then everything they're doing is a show, because none of it's actually true. They're just trying to make it look like it's happening because it's already happened years ago. You know what I mean? And that belief that it's always around the corner, Jesus is always about to return, is what's controlling people now. Even though if we were to believe and understand history is a lie and he's already come and gone, and we'd know where we actually were in history then. We're in the little season run by the devil, which is about 250 years roughly. And then after that, final white throne judgment, dead resurrected. Big thing. Like, so if we're there, something crazy is about to happen, and we're really in a crazy, crazy time to be alive, you know. But it seems like there's always this push to believe that, you know, the rapture's about to happen, or, you know, Jesus is about to come in the clouds, and a lot of
I wonder who's pushing that. Is it atheists, or is it the other thing?
Christians are banking on that happening. And what will they do? I reckon they'll reveal a Jesus character, and all the Christians who don't understand this will believe that Saviour's come. It's likely Lucifer, or the devil, is in his little season presenting himself as the Saviour of all mankind, and then he'll gather his army, as it's described in Revelations 20, who will then go and make war with the camp of saints and surround it. And the camp of saints is where Jesus actually is, with the saints that ruled with him during the 1,000-year reign. But before that happens, in the little season story, the devil has to gather an army first of humans who will go and make war with that camp. And it's possible that's what's actually happening right now. And he'll pretend to be Jesus. That's how that's how he'll convince everybody to go make war with this evil place, that these evil invading aliens in the North Pole or something. You know what I mean? He'll make up some story, and we're going to go defeat Satan and his army in the North Pole. Come with me, my children. Follow me. I'm Jesus. Something like that will happen. You know, really, that is the deception. It's the devil pretending to be the savior and leading the people against the true God who's already come and reigned for 1,000 years. So it depends where we are in the timeline. If you want to believe human history is all a lie and you want to go down the Tartarian route, then that rabbit hole goes way deeper than you can imagine. And it changes everything, you know, so who knows? You'd be open to all possibilities, but fundamentally, it's not a salvation issue. Just get right with Jesus. That's the ultimate thing you have to do. Get right with God.
Jesus. All right, well, thanks everyone for hanging out. We've been going for about 3 hours. Tomorrow we'll be back with... I'll probably do a poll on Discord if we want to do more Chud Watch or Sovereign Citizens tomorrow. So keep an eye out. I'm going to start the poll. I'll actually do it right now. I always forget. And I know I still have to do the costume poll. I was just waiting until I actually get paid later this week to buy the costume, so I gotta do that poll. But as of right now, let me put a little poll together. Under the announcements tab, it's gonna be... At everyone, what would you like me to stream on Monday, and it's going to be between Chuds or Sovsits. Use emojis. What would be a good emoji for a chud? Unstable Deadbeat says, thanks so much for a great stream, Hannah. I've been sick all week, so this has been a wonderfully entertaining diversion I needed. Oh, thank you. Love you too, Mr. Blast. Sovsits will be a car. Car for Sovsits. Poo for Chuds. Okay. So that's up. Make sure you vote in that. I'm just gonna end the stream. Normally I do like a raid or something, but I'm just gonna end it. I'm tired. Today I was easing back into work. I had a really nice day off yesterday, and I was just feeling kinda drowsy and not in for a full thing. But tomorrow we'll be back. There will not be a game to distract us. We will be entirely watching whatever you guys pick. So, if I can connect the Twitch and Discord, you can use your Twitch emotes there. Oh, I didn't know that, actually. I'll figure that out, but for now, use the ones I said in the thing. But I will figure that out for the future. Altered Undying says I was going to suggest a globe costume, but, well, yeah, not very flattering. It doesn't need to be flattering, necessarily, but thanks. Alright, good night, everyone! Bye-bye.